Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Should we start, sir?
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, and esteemed guests. A very good day to all of you. It is an honor to welcome you to this virtual platform as we inaugurate the webinar organized on the occasion of World Biofuel Day 2023. As we all know, that World Biofuel Day is commemorated every year on 10th of August to create awareness about the importance of non-fossil fuels as an alternative to conventional fossil fuels and to highlight the various efforts made by the government in this biofuel sector. It has been celebrated by Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas since 2015. The theme of this year's celebration is Biofuels, Fuels for a Sustainable Future. Throughout the day, a diverse array of activities will be unfold across our nation. From panel discussions featuring industry experts to virtual tours of biofuel production facilities, today's events will provide us with a holistic understanding of the biofuel landscape. We are thrilled to have amongst us Shri Pankaj Jain, Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, whose presence lends a great significance to this event. We are also privileged to have Chairman and Managing Directors of our oil and gas companies. I also heartily welcome all of them, sir. I also welcome senior officials present in this webinar from Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and oil and gas industry. Now, without further ado, I invite Shri Pankaj Jain, sir, Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, to inaugurate the webinar and set the stage for a day filled with enriching discussions and insights. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, and a warm welcome and a good morning to all of you. It's wonderful to join you on a day which we have been commemorating every year, and on a subject which has been very close to my heart in terms of what it means for all of us. But as I was looking at the schedule for today and the agenda for today, it struck me that I was part of something similar last year. So what has really changed in the last 1 year? What difference have we made? What are we really commemorating? And I was listing out these things that during the last 1 year itself, clearly, by the end of the last supply year, we had achieved 10%. This was a milestone at one point of time, seemed unthinkable in India. This year itself, ever since then, we've already had the highest ever quantities of ethanol which have been contracted. 12% is the third thing, 12% is on track. E20 sales have begun, not only have they begun, they've begun very strong. Today, E20 is available at over 2,200 pumps across the country. As many as 22 new dedicated ethanol plants, DEPs, got commissioned. Biodiesel procurement itself has been over 14 crore liters in just over 4 months of this financial year, which is the highest ever. We've never had these kind of numbers. Our first commercial passenger flight with an indigenous SAF blend happened in the last 12 months. IOCL's Panipat plant, the 2G plant, that got commissioned. In the union budget, we saw strong thrust on CBG, and this has been followed by various schemes and policy announcements which have come. And in the last 1 year itself, there's been a faster pace of experimentation on ED5, on MD5, on renewable DME, and the work progress which has been made on 3G ethanol. So all these things have been happening in the last 1 year. Yet, so when you look at all these 10 things which I listed, what is the implication of all this? I think to my mind, and this really is about setting the keynote here, setting the landscape for today's discussions. The debate is no longer about the need for biofuels, is no longer about biofuels being a possibility. It's no longer about viability of biofuels as a business. I think that stage we have crossed. Those baselines are very well established, and I don't think we need to spend any more time in terms of trying to convince anybody that biofuels are good, or biofuels matter, or biofuels are sustainable. I don't think that really is the debate. Therefore, what does this really mean? It means that starting today, our aspirations and ambitions need to evolve. They need to evolve to the next level. In fact, I was reminded of the motto from the Olympics, which is, Citius, Altius, Fortius, which basically says faster, higher, stronger. How do we make that happen here? This will manifest itself in various forms over the next 12 months and the months thereafter. Clearly, the Global Biofuels Alliance is going to be a major milestone, which could be as early as next month. That you've been part of the run-up to it. You've been part of, all of you have been contributing to making it possible. But that is going to be a very, very significant milestone in terms of making things happen. We need to look at large-scale adoption and use of maize, of sweet sorghum, MSW, and other 2G feedstock in the days and months to come. It will also mean that we have to enhance our own capabilities at our manufacturing plants to use multiple feedstocks. So whether it's in CBG or ethanol, the flexibility which we will need to build in to be able to use multiple feedstocks so that we are able to transcend the problems of seasonality and short working seasons. It will also mean much greater extension activity by people who are involved in producing biofuels, so that many of the discussions around biofuel, you have a voice on the table, so that you are able to make sure that what you're putting your money where your mouth is. It will also involve much better communication around some of the ill-informed and ill-informed and I would say misguided debates about the food versus fuel kind of rubric, or the fact that too much water is being used. So some of those things have to be really addressed right up front through much better communication efforts. More joined up communication will probably be required. And finally, you will need much more by way of innovation and R&D and technology. We are in very early stages of technology. Much more is possible, both in terms of yields, costs, as well as the ability to do much more with the same level of investment. Those, to my mind, stand out as 6 or 7 things which would matter in the next 12 months to come, and also lay the stage for the years thereafter. This agenda for action is something which I would be happy to look at in terms of the deliberations which emerge from this conference. The sessions are absolutely exciting, and I wish I could spend more time in terms of being a fly on the wall, in terms of hearing what is being discussed, what is being thought about. After all, many of the thoughts of today will be actions for tomorrow. So I would wish you all the very best. It's a great time to be in this business, and it's a full value chain is in play. It's been a lot of sweat and toil, which is now bearing fruit. So therefore, as I inaugurate this seminar, I just wish your deliberations all the success, and I'm confident that a lot of useful thoughts will come out of this. A lot of points of action for us as well as for our companies will come out of this. And this, to my mind, is the harbinger of very exciting times ahead. So thank you very much for having me here, and I look forward to receiving the outputs from your deliberations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts and setting the agenda for the webinar and this year's Biofuel Day. Thank you very much, sir. We are thankful that you joined amongst us. So thank you. Now, I would like to invite Mr. P.S. Ravi, ex-Executive Director, Bharat Petroleum, to start the session on ethanol, way forward for higher blends beyond E20. Mr. P. Over to you, Mr. P.S. Ravi.
Thank you, Mr. Anurag, and it was really wonderful to hear our secretary lay out what should be the points for action for the coming year. So taking forward from there, firstly, once again, wishes on the World Biofuel Day from my side. Good morning and welcome to everybody who is there in this webinar. As the topic has been placed in front of all of us, it's on the fuels for a sustainable future and ethanol way forward for higher blends beyond E20. As Secretary Sir had rightly pointed out, the motto of Olympics being faster, higher, and stronger. So I would like to just briefly touch upon how we have traveled over the years and how we have and where have we reached till today. With me are the three esteemed panelists who are industry experts, veterans, and leaders in their own right. Two of them from the oil industry, Mr. Anurag Saraugi, who heads biofuels in Bharat Petroleum, Mr. Sridhar Gaud, who heads supply and logistics in Hindustan Petroleum, and we have Mr. Prashant Banerjee, who heads Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. To start with, to give what has happened in the last few years, ethanol blending program started off way back in the year 2003. Then thereafter, it has only grown stronger and stronger by the day and year. And today, we have reached a state where in 2022, we have achieved 10% blending across the country. We are currently blending 12% in this sugar year. We have already introduced E20, and as Secretary Sir has rightly pointed out, 2,200 retail outlets are already dispensing E20 to the motoring public. And we have very ambitious plans to ensure that E20 becomes the base fuel by 25-26. How this has happened? Over these years, there has been a number of interventions. First at the policy level, wherein pricing got taken care of, broad basing of feedstocks was done, freedom to transport ethanol across the states was permitted. Many of the teething issues like licenses, etc., were simplified. The procurement process by the oil industry was simplified. The enhanced distillation capacities, DFPD had come out with interest subvention schemes, and bank loans were made easily available, so distillation capacities could be set up. The vehicle technology also underwent a major change. All our OEMs, our vehicle manufacturers, they came out with vehicles which could adopt and run on blended petrol. So these being the various initiatives taken over the last few years, particularly the ramp up has been substantial in the last 3 years from 2019-20 onwards, when from 5% we have now reached 10% and now we are doing 12%. In this session, to aim for, as Secretary Sir had said, to be faster, to aim higher and become stronger. In this session, we would like to hear the opinions, the strategies being formulated as to how we are planning to ensure the 20% blend happens in the next couple of years across the country. And then how are we planning, or what are we planning in terms of how do we achieve higher blends? So let me start off first with Mr. Anurag Saraugi, who heads biofuels from Bharat Petroleum. So let me start with the first question. I won't call it question. First point of discussion where we would definitely have the expert views of Mr. Anurag Saraugi. Mr. Anurag, so what are the plans since we need to achieve E20 in the next couple of years, and probably we have plans to go up to higher blends? So how do you see the supply scenario panning out in terms of the distillation capacities being made available across the country? Mr. Anurag.
Thank you, Ravi sir, and good morning all. And on the occasion of World Biofuel Day, first at the outset, let me wish all of you a green future. Sir, going to the question that you have asked, Secretary Sir already told that it is no more a debate whether ethanol is to be used or not to be used. That debate being settled already, that it's a sustainable fuel for the future. In a country like India, which is the third largest energy consuming nation, and we are going to be more and more energy consuming as we go by, it is set to double by 2050. Energy security therefore becomes a key challenge area. Domestically produced ethanol is an opportunity for us, therefore, and therefore, going by the context of this particular webinar, higher blends of ethanol is the best way to go forward in a country like us, which will help us to build an ethanol economy. Journey, sir, Mr. Ravi, you have already covered that we have done a modest journey from somewhere we were doing 1.5, now we are doing 12, and we have targeted to do 20% by ESY 25-26. That is not only a mandate by the government, but also an aspiration by the teams in India, which includes all the stakeholders, I would say, the OMC, the vehicle manufacturer, the suppliers, the distillers, and the feedstock and the value chain. 20% in our country would actually mean, translating into quantities, would mean that we will require about 1,000 crore liter by 25-26. And this actually does not cover the higher blends. Suppose we move to 27%, then we require another 35% larger quantity. We move to 30, we still require a larger quantity. I'll first present to the people who are on the forum how we have already taken care of the 20%, or I would say rather a little more care than the 20%, which helps us to aspire for a faster, stronger, and a larger role in this biofuel economy. So currently, the availability in the country, as we see, we have procured the highest quantity, or we have allocated the highest quantity so far procurement at about 564 crore liters today. We expect that the current suppliers would do something like 430. And we OMCs have, and they took an advanced step much earlier, and we signed 131 long-term agreements. When I say long-term, this is an assurance to the distillation capacities, the project proponents, that oil companies will continue to uplift at least for next 10 years of the agreement to support the biofuel or the ethanol economy. These plans are expected to add 750. So I said already 400 plus is available from existing, 700 crore liter plus is available from new. 22 of such plants have already been commissioned. Secretary Sir addressed that and said, which adds already 163 crore liter has been added into the capacity. Another 200 is not something that oil companies have tied up, but this is a support given by the distillers on their own. So we are already talking of a number of 1,300 crore against a requirement of 1,000. OMCs are also promoting another 300 crore liter capacity. We have just floated an expression of interest, especially for the states which are deficit. As we all know, UP, Maharashtra, and Karnataka are the rich states of sugarcane, and so far the ethanol economy is based on sugarcane. There is a trend now, there is a support now, and there is a focus now on building grain-based distilleries. And therefore, in all seasons, as even Secretary Sir told, how to build up maize, sweet sorghum, and all that, just to ensure that all round in all seasons, we are able to get ethanol. So if I were to address Mr. Ravi your question, we are already at 1,500 crore capacity if I look at this plan. Now, 1,000 crore liter capacity would mean for 20%. So therefore, we are in for reaching out for higher blends, notwithstanding the fact that there are people, even now, the people are interested in setting up ethanol plants, and therefore there is a great future ahead in terms of production capacities. Going by the OMC storage, now OMCs have not left it only to the distillers. We also need to do what we need to do at our house, which means additional storage capacities, additional dispensing infrastructure. Today, E10 or E12 is available across the country. Tomorrow, E20 needs to be available across the country. And therefore, we need to prepare for storage and blending capabilities. All the depots put together, I would just place a number in front of the forum that in order to get a minimum storage capacity of 21 days to, let's say, about 30 days of storage, we require something like we will require investment of at least 3,500 to 4,000 crore only in the storage capacities as OMCs. This does not include the rake loading infrastructure, which all the companies are building to carry ethanol from one portion of the country to another portion in case a demand exists and there is a dearth of supply due to factors which are beyond our control. Beyond this is the dispensing infrastructure, and that also will consume a lot of money, but oil companies are totally focused on settling E20 as the base fuel so that we can then move on to the higher blends. For the people who are joined, in general, I would just like to place on record that EBP plan of the government is building of the ethanol economy, and it is not settling only at distillers or at the OMC level. The benefits of this have already accrued: foreign exchange impact of over 50,000 crore, expeditious payment to farmers. Farmer economy is connected to distillers economy. Distiller production is connected to OMC. This entire value chain is very, very important for us. CO2 reduction, it takes care of the GHG emissions. So just to put a very subtle opinion, or should I say very, very firm opinion in my view, developing an industry and the value chain of bioethanol and its ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, there are a lot to be done on feedstock management, feedstock securities, and the supply chain, which is connected on the inbound logistics. Outbound, we have largely taken care of. By leveraging the agricultural sector and therefore creating a greater self-reliance and economic empowerment. And as we move towards higher ethanol blend, which is what the session is all about, the benefits in my mind will only multiply and become better for the country. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Anurag, for very clearly giving us the confidence that you have clearly laid out in terms of what is the expected quantities to achieve E20 and as well as the higher blend. And you are giving us the confidence that more than 1,500 crore liter distillation capacities are being set up across the country. Already some have got commissioned and many more would get commissioned. Plus, it was nice to hear from you that the oil industry has geared up in terms of the supply and the logistics to receive, store, and transport across the length and breadth of country the blended fuel, as well as dispensing across the retail outlets. Thank you very much, Mr. Anurag. So I would now move on to the next veteran oil industry expert, Mr. Sridhar Gaud, who is the executive director, who heads supplies and distribution in Hindustan Petroleum, and who has been actively involved in this particular ethanol blending program. Of course, he has got many firsts to his credit. In fact, he has a long list in terms of what he has achieved in the supply and logistics. I can go on and on describing him. So instead of me describing him, so it would always be better to hear him out because expert views matter a lot. So, Mr. Sridhar Gaud, welcome, sir. And the question or the point where we would like to get your views on are, while Mr. Anurag has talked about huge capacities of distillation being set up, as well as and also the infrastructure being developed by the oil industry. Sir, what I would like to know from you is that how are we placed as a country in terms of availability of feedstock for making these this kind of huge quantities of ethanol, and I mean for E20 and possibly higher blends? This is the first question. And second, what are your plans, or what is the oil industry's plans in terms of supply and logistics? And the third one is, when you're talking of feedstocks, can you also throw some light on how do you see the role of the governments, meaning both center and the state? What do you envisage the roles which probably also which could be played by the governments also in furthering the cause of making available feedstock for such a large quantity of ethanol? Over to you, sir.
Good morning to all, respected Secretary, respected JS, and respected CNMDs and directors who have joined this, and other fellow panelists and other participants who have joined this webinar today. Today, we are delving into the crucial topic of way forward for the higher blends beyond E20. And as our secretary had given the call that in the ethanol blending program or in any of the biofuel blending program, our progress should be faster, higher, and stronger. So nowhere we would have thought that we would have crossed 10% ethanol blending if we were sitting back around the 3 year or 4 years back. But because of the various interventions that have been taken over by the government and MOPNG along with the DFPD in last 3 to 4 years, we could achieve that 10% ethanol blending within no period of time. And I'm very, very hopeful that we can even surpass ethanol E20 blending also, because the environment is there for us to attain the higher ethanol blending. So in this, sir, first thing is I will come to the current situation which is there with respect to the supply side of the supply of the feedstocks. So earlier in the earlier years, if we used to see, we were all the oil marketing companies were heavily dependent upon the molasses-based ethanol, where the molasses-based ethanol was very limited to 3 or 4 states like UP and Maharashtra, Karnataka. These are the main states from where we used to get the ethanol, and the ethanol availability from these states through the molasses, we were covering the entire India. So the ethanol used to travel to length and breadth across the India to ensure that ethanol blending happens throughout the country. Then slowly we also saw the distilleries coming up. So if we had seen 3 to 4 years back, the participation was very less because of the various initiatives and the segregation done by the OMCs with respect to different kind of feedstocks that would be available as defined in the National Biofuel Policy also. We had segregated based on the different feedstocks, and the percentage of ethanol received from the food grains, from the grains also has increased over the years. Now, as the Secretary has said, 22 DEPs, dedicated ethanol plants, are already in the place. And out of 130, balance are also are expected to come within 1 to 2 years. So now, while the molasses-based feedstock is more or less a sustained basis, because except for the cyclical nature which is there, but we can expect these molasses-based ethanol basis the storage capacity is available. It would be available throughout the 7 to 8 months without any problem. Now, to supplement for the balance period, balance quantity, the ethanol from grains was more essential. So the current grains, ethanol from the grains, we have 2 to 3 routes. One is from maize, and another one is from the surplus rice, and a third one is from the damaged food grains, damaged rice, basically. So now, to build the ecosystem for the sustained availability of these grains, which will support the ethanol blending program throughout the year, even including the deficit states, which are currently where the molasses is not based ethanol is not available, this becomes essential. So what we should do is we should as you rightly said, the role of state governments also would be very essential in this. So why I am telling the role of the state governments while we are getting the surplus rice and other things from the FCI and other things. But going forward, we need to have a self-sustained stock availability tied up by the every DEP. So when I interacted with one of the state governments recently. I was mainly talking about the availability of the feedstock for the biodiesel blending program. So I was surprised that the state government principal secretary, he said that they have already demarcated the lands in the state and they have given it to the palm oil companies so their responsibility is that companies would develop the help the farmers developing in the palm oil and then give a sustained income to them irrespective of the external factors which are there. So in case of ethanol also, we should have something, the dedicated ethanol plant should have a tie-up with the maize growers because maize, unlike molasses, it is more or less available plenty across the states. If we have to say first ranking state is Karnataka, then we have Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar. Many of the states are maize growers. And if we develop an ecosystem, if we take the help of the state government and develop an ecosystem where they need to give the availability of the, they need to develop a framework where they will announce the amount of quantity that is available in the country, maize available, and the transparent system wherein they can also define as to how this maize would be sold to this dedicated ethanol plants. So with that, we can have a sustained feedstock for the ethanol blending program, even without depending much on the damaged food grains also. So maize would be a major factor for all of us as we go forward. So maize has the conversion as compared to the rice. The conversion is little less. It is less by 40%. But the price from the ethanol from the maize is going to be higher. And in the current year also, all the oil marketing companies have given the, apart from fixing of the price for maize in a separate category, all the oil marketing companies have also announced an incentive of ₹6 for the ethanol manufactured from the maize. So all the oil marketing companies and the MOPNG strive is towards the maximization of the maize. And it is only the ecosystem with the help of the state government, if we are able to build and in the entire country. So then the ethanol blends, what we are discussing beyond 20, it would be very possible, and we would be surpassing Brazil also, where they are doing currently ethanol E27. We'd be surpassing that within next 2 to 3 years. That is the hope I am having in this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Sridhar Gaur. Thanks a lot. Thank you. So I'll come back to you on the other points. We have the third industry expert from the vehicle manufacturer side, Mr. Prashant Banerjee. Mr. Prashant Banerjee, congratulations, for having launched E20 compliant vehicles in the country, and now successfully all the vehicles being rolled out are all E20 compliant. I have a couple of questions to you, Mr. Prashant Banerjee. The question number one is, India is pretty unique as compared to the rest of the world in terms of the profile of the vehicles. We have here, most of them are two-wheelers as compared to the four-wheelers when you see the rest of the country. So for question number one is how prepared we are in terms of making our vehicles capable to handle higher blends. E20 and beyond E20? What is the thought process, which as the OEM industry expert, we would like to hear from you. Second question is that what is your thought process on like Brazil has E27. So do you have, what is your thought process on what would be, are you planning to have higher blend base fuels, maybe E27, E30, E35? So you can throw light on that. That is the second question. And the third and the last question is, Mr. Prashant, what is the choice you're going to offer to the consumer in terms of he can decide on his own whatever quantity of ethanol and whatever quantity of petrol, whether he is going to take the decision, or the vehicles which are going to make would be capable of handling certain standardized solutions, like E20, E30, E40, E60, E80 and E85. So these are the three questions before you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi, and a very good morning to everyone. Under the aegis of Government of India, particularly Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, the symphony created on biofuel, bringing all the stakeholders together from India, is getting echoed all across the globe. So it's heartening to see that wherever is will, there is way, is manifested in what India has achieved in E20 migration in the shortest possible time. And this has been possible only because of extraordinary synergy created between oil marketing company or ethanol producers and automobile industry. While auto industry migrated, leapfrogging from BS4 to BS6, it was a kind of unthinkable challenge, but together we could achieve what everybody has seen, and the world is noticing that India migrated smoothly to BS6. From there on, the E20 was also another milestone, which was unthinkable in a shortest possible time, with Honorable Prime Minister's very clear clarion call of preponing the targets from 2030 to 2025. And it's very gratifying to present automobile industry's achievement. And we have converted all our vehicles from 1st April 2023 to be E20 material compatible. And we are very eagerly and very, very progressively working towards making engine compatible by 2025. But as you know, that any migration brings in its wake the turbulence of transitions needs to be converted from transient flow to laminar, and for that the policy enablers are required. So Mr. Ravi, as you rightly mentioned, extraordinary steps we have taken, we have migrated, and we are very, very hopefully looking forward that the two-wheeler industry, which is largely 100cc vehicles with the 70% consumption of gasoline in India, needs to be taken into account, because India moves on two-wheelers, and Indian economy is actually determined by the populace handling this very small 100cc vehicle segment, which is very, very sensitive to the family commuting segments. So that's where we are very much interested to see that how we can change the technological interventions by bringing the hardware software change. And this hardware software change will help customer accept the product without compromise on the acceleration, drivability, startability. And that's the reason where we are looking forward from all of you a very simple, clear migration to RON 95. Last year, actually, the Honorable Secretary created the committee of experts, and RON 95 committee recommended for implementation notification of RON 95. We are eagerly looking forward. If that is granted, then the smoother transition to E20 will happen, because that will help us. Because as the Honorable Secretary rightly mentioned that 2,200 stations have already started dispensing E20. Obviously, we are expecting that given a choice, if everywhere the E20 fuel, which is RON 95, is available, we have actually lever to change the compression ratio of the engine, and that will help increase the fuel efficiency of the vehicle. Brake thermal efficiency will go up, and thereby it will be actually better for customers and better for nation to save the fuel economy. So that's the reason we are looking that if that decision happens, it will be faster. Of course, we are also working on flex fuel vehicle as set by the Government of India's expectation. So on flex fuel, we have already demonstrated that all the major companies have created proto vehicles, working proto, and now we are looking for next step of mass production by next year. Obviously, when we migrate to flex fuel, the challenge which we are facing is right now whether E85 or E100, because that's where we are struggling. Currently, we are not able to get E100 vehicle for testing. E100 fuel for testing, and that's where we will need oil marketing company stalwarts present here. If we can get E100 fuel for supply and testing of our vehicles, it will be helpful. So some of the policy enablers like GST reduction and E85, what will be the pricing mechanism for the fuel? Those are the considerations we have already put forth to Honorable Secretary, sir, and that's under consideration. Hopefully, if the clarity emerges, the business confidence on investment will go up. So all in all, I can say that India has demonstrated, the rising India, the new India, aspiring India has demonstrated that we are on the very clear path of migrating towards decarbonization of transportation. And in decarbonization of transportation, biofuel plays the biggest role in my view, because not only it gives us the indigenous advantage of energy security, pollution mitigation, our international commitment to the COP26 and 27 targets, but also at the same time, it increases the farmers' doubling of income, and over and above, I think, which is, it's very understood that the transition of the mobility industry from ICE to electric will happen in a very smoother manner without bringing disruptions and distress in the system. And that's where we call it as a sustainable future, sustainable mobility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prashant. Very nicely having talked about the role the automobile industry is playing in this transition and migration to higher blends of ethanol. Ladies and gentlemen, since we have taken some time in having these discussions, so I would like to end this session on ethanol higher blends. What is the way forward, by just summarizing what the industry experts have just now mentioned. One, from the supply side, Mr. Anurag has given us the confidence that we have sufficient capacities coming up in the next few years, which will help us not only achieve E20 by 25-26, but also we will be in a position to go much higher. So, and he also talked of the preparedness of the oil industry in terms of handling such large quantities of ethanol for E20 as well as the higher blends. Then Mr. Sridhar Gaud very nicely spoke about the availability of the feedstocks, the alternate feedstocks which are there in place, various other innovations and interventions like 2G technology, etc., being tried out for ensuring that we have sufficient quantity of ethanol all throughout the year, and how we have migrated from just molasses based to grain based, and maybe tomorrow to 2G as well. Then Mr. Prashant very nicely articulated on how automobile industry is progressing, continuously innovating, and bringing in newer developing newer technologies, particularly suited for India, particularly for the two-wheelers, so that we are in a position to migrate to having vehicles which can which can handle higher blends of the fuel. So it's an exciting future which we have in the next couple of years. The important point is we stay the course, and another important point is what Secretary Sir had mentioned in his opening address, that it is important that all the stakeholders continue to engage with each other, keep talking about the various issues and challenges, whatever which keep coming up, so that they can be ironed out and we can keep moving forward, and ultimately achieve a decarbonized mobility, which in turn helps the country which in terms also helps the farmers of the country. So thank you very much, gentlemen, all the three, my co-panelists, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you, Mr. Shantanu Gupta and Mr. Raut.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ravi, for agreeing to be a moderator, and you have conducted nicely the discussion around ethanol way forward and for higher blends and beyond E20 and the challenges associated with it. So I once again, on behalf of oil industry, I thank you very much for accepting this role of moderator and conducting the discussion nicely. So now we'll move to the next topic, that is Satat enhancing capacities. We have three panelists. First is Dr. Umesh Srivastava, he is ED R&D IOCL. And second one, Mr. K. Manjunath, Divisional Manager, Canada Bank. And third is Mr. Manek Chakravarti, CEO, GPS Renewables. And we have with us as a role of moderator, Mr. Shantanu Gupta, ED AESD IOCL, who is the pioneer in spearheading the CBG Satat program of MOPNG, and he is the actual man behind implementation in reality in ground. He is the man behind implementing this scheme of Satat and taking forward the vision of MOPNG. So I will not take much time. I will hand over the session to Mr. Shantanu Gupta, IOCL.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. Wish you all a very happy World Biofuel Day. So that the records we take, the memories of the earlier biofuel days celebrated in the country, and what we have our respected and honorable secretary has already briefed. What will be our thoughts and agenda for action for this year? It's very important to celebrate, at the same time take promise and commitment to achieve more. So now, just now we heard Mr. Ravi and the very able team of panelists from ethanol. So ethanol has become a success story for the country, and which is why not? Because there are so many efforts and so many dedicated, people are all around, highly knowledgeable, good support and absolute support from government, and all the policy enablings have been done. So it was, believe me, today where we are for CBG, 10 years back, ethanol was also struggling in a similar way. So that is the reason I am very much optimistic that this CBG will also excel in very soon, because we have experienced ethanol. So we have an advantage of having an experience not to get back to those failures and then correct the course while traveling. So that's the optimism we have, and I'm sure with the country, which is having more than 50 running plants and over 100 plants under different stage of construction. So things has started happening, and number of enablers and policy supports government has already provided, and things are also going on. So with this, in this backdrop, I am being blessed with the very three, wise panelists, I should say. They are in their each field, they have excelled. Dr. Umesh Srivastava is my colleague, Executive Director of IOC R&D, who has been dedicated his life mission for development of technology, and also he's worked in the solar energy and done a pioneering jobs in solar energy, also in this ethanol area, and now the CBG technology development, all the areas he is looking after. So I will have two questions for Dr. Srivastava. Number one, technologically, what we are finding today, the market is apt for development, but the yield conditions come and considerations come from each feedstock. If we talk about biomass or bioresidues, there is a range of say 8% to 15%. There are press mud, there are municipal organic solid waste. There are yields also, we think of 3.5% to 5.5%. Then there are cattle dungs, chicken litters and others. They have a very low yield. So what level of technological intervention in your mind you think should be there because to increase the yield as well as to keep the cost under control and to get a better, purification efficiency. So overall, when we talk about compressed biogas, today it is a 90% plus the methane, it qualifies for that as per standard. So don't you think that in future, if we make certain moves, that at least 95% plus that should be aptly available in the market, so that we will have a better calorific value and really compete with the segment of CNG. Over to you, Dr. Srivastava, and we look forward to hearing from now.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that nice introduction, and my best wishes to all who are joined here on this World Biofuel Day. Coming to the question that Mr. Gupta has posed in terms of the technological intervention with respect to the feed which is available. There are different feeds on which these CBG plants run. And in fact, coming to the feed part, I'd like to first touch upon the genesis of this technology, which will be very interesting to know for all who have joined here, that this is a particular technology with respect to the commercial usage was actually discovered in India. Way back in 1859, this was the first plant that was built in Bombay. And then in 1895, the Britishers took this kind of a concept to UK, and then they started generating gas from the sewage treatment facility, and they used to light their street lamps on them. Around 1940 or so, first plant based on biogas on cow dung was developed by IARI, and then a Graha Lakshmi concept came up in 1960, which was adopted by Khadi and Village Industries Commission. So from here, I wanted to mention one very important thing, that today when we talk of Satat as a scheme, I think India is the best country in terms of initiating some very path-breaking technologies with respect to biogas, because we are the ones who have introduced this technology to the world. So in that context, we have to take into consideration the different feedstocks which are available. And in terms of the feedstocks, what is important is the total solid which is available in the feedstock, so that they can give you the desired yield. So depending upon the total solid, for example, in the agriculture residue, the rice straw, the total solid content is more than 90%. Compare it with the press mud, the total solid content will be something like 30%. So the more the total solid content, more will be the yield coming from the feedstocks. So as Mr. Gupta also mentioned, that from agricultural residue, something like 12 plus minus 2% is possible. From pressed mud, it will be about 4.5 plus minus 0.5, or 10% variation here and there is possible with respect to the feedstock. And I think whether it is a ethanol-based bio intervention, or whether it is a gas CBG-based bio intervention, the main problem or main issue that we have to resolve is continuous availability of feedstock into a given plant. So when we design the plant generally is designed with respect to a particular feedstock. It would be really good if we actually design a plant based on multiple feedstock, which is the direction in which the technological developments are happening now. And so that the plant at least gets some feedstock or the other for generation of biogas. And with respect to purification of the biogas, definitely there are solutions. There are amine-based cleaning methods available. There are PSAs, then there are membrane-based methods which are coming up. I think membrane-based is something which we feel will be more effective, though they are at a developmental stage. And the technology will get a fillip only when we have a lot of technology suppliers, lot of the component of the biogas plant suppliers within the country, which is also one gap area we feel is there. And if we can have number of suppliers, if that ecosystem can develop, then the target that we want to meet for the Satat, which is about 15 million metric tons of biogas or 5,000 plants and like that, if there are good technology suppliers, if there are good plant component suppliers, and if the plants are based on multiple feedstock, I think that will be the day when we can say that it will be really achieving the objectives. And the way the scheme is growing, at least the oil companies have given an offtake guarantee to anyone and everyone who wants to set up a plant. And by that logic, everyone is coming and signing an LOI also. But if they are backed up by good technologies, and if they are backed up by good equipment suppliers, and they have the knowledge of the feedstocks and feed availability, that will be the day when we actually can define that, yes, we have succeeded in the mission. And I'm sure we will, that ecosystem is developing slowly and steadily in the country. And in next 2 years' time, I can see a lot of activities or action happening on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srivastava, for your very well thought of deliberations. And we are sure with the support of you and also the R&D fraternity in the country, we'll be able to extract more methane from the same quantity of total solid, so that the waste is not finally wasted. So that's the major issues, because we are all handling waste, and this is going to help the country from Swachh Bharat mission and Atmanirbhar Bharat, because Satat is a scheme which takes all the check boxes. Whatever you do, everything becomes an advantage for the country. So thank you very much once again. I will come to now Mr. K. Manjunath. So he is from Canara Bank. He has a very long, over 20 years of experience in dealing with financing, and also he has a stint on the AXA Life, Bharti AXA Life Insurance. So he is taking very keen interest in the Satat initiative, being the nodal bank for the country. And we look forward to Canara Bank and all the associated banks so that we get good funding, young entrepreneurs having a dream to build something of their own. That dream comes true with the good support of banks. So over to you, Manjunath. My specific questions to you will be, what are the bankers' point of view when you see the Satat scheme, and also the goes for a sanctioning of fund with collaterals, because there are a lot of areas of concern now. Some banks is asking for 100% collateral, somebody is asking for 60% collaterals. So we would like to have overall views, because it will benefit to all our participants who have joined today, is looking forward for getting a solution on that. And definitely after that, if any interest subvention scheme can be implemented so that the interest burden comes down. And thirdly, the priority sector lending, the compliances of PSL for the banks with respect to Satat. Over to you, Mr. Manjunath. We can't hear you, Mr. Manjunath. If you can just check the audio. Do you have a telephone number?
I'm audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Now audible.
Sir, I'm audible. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving Canara Bank an opportunity for participating in this World Biofuel Day and this webinar. And as our sir told, in bank's perspective, how new whenever the new schemes have been introduced, or whenever new this one has been introduced, how what perspective banks will be looking into it.
obviously, sir, since being a public sector bank, we have dual responsibility, not only profit making, but also for the social well-being and improvement, national building activities. There will be always support from banks, not only our Canara Bank, all the public sector banks as well as other member banks also. So we'll be supporting it. And as you asked, what are the basic points that we need to look into while processing? So obviously, like other proposals, what will be the owner stake, means margin, what amount will be the owner stake, so that whatever the amount is putting, that it will give a strength that the promoter will he will be his involvement will be more, and so that he will not divert his funds or will not make any whatever the unit is there, it will be viable and he will be promoting it. And secondly, security angle, security, no doubt, sir, we are being, since it is a greenfield project, the high level collateral, I think banks are not insisting. Only in wherever tripartite agreement or LOI is not available, there only up to 25% only collaterals are insisted. And the third thing is regarding interest subvention. Since under, if it is covered under AF project, Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, we are covering it under this one, sir, and up to 2 crores subvention will be there. And for about 2 crores, our normal rate of interest, it will be charged, sir.
Yeah, so this is for priority sector lending compliances.
Yes, sir, up to 100 crores we are covering in priority sector, sir.
But what are the mandate for banks with respect to such initiative to comply with PSI?
Sir, one is tripartite agreement to ensure that continuous this one is there. Supply of feedstock as well as whatever the production has been done, it has to be sold, and he has to earn this one, because huge amount will be invested by the promoter as well as the bank also has lent, so amount will be involved. And if the both buyback and front end arrangements are not there, then the unit may go viable. So that's why we need to ensure that one. And regarding second, this one is many promoters, they are coming out with plan that they want to take up the unit in lease land. So there only because whatever the lease period is there, it should cover our loan repayment period, or else in course of any untoward this one, again that plant may be at existence of that plant may be in stakes, sir. And the third one is escrow account, because whatever the sale or this one is there, proceeds of sales are there, it has to route through bank only. Then only that we can ensure that unit runs well, and repayments are also prompt in this one, sir.
Yeah, so for that, escrow account is being opened for this with the banks and the plant owner.
Yes,
but what we see in the real ground,
yes,
so there are few issues which need to be addressed very quickly. So on behalf of all the participants here who are struggling in the market for getting, despite having a good standing, they are not given, approval for multiple loan facilities, and also not the processing time and the cost of processing. Like they have taken a charge for processing all those things. It needs to be looked into in a very progressive way, because it's a very nascent stage, and unless there is a finance, nobody can do anything in this country. So that is why finance becomes very important, and this becomes a banker's role becomes very much positive for this type of development in the nascent stage. Maybe after 3-4 years, things will be settling all right. Then that would be much comfortable because the ecosystem will develop and the whole, biomass aggregations, then waste management, these schemes will also get developed. Offtake will also improve because by 2026-27, almost 80% of our country will be connected with the CGD grid. So the evacuation to pipelines as good as the cascade route. All these things will be much easier. FOM, which is one of the pain point for bankers, the sale of organic manure. That area also needs to be looked into, which Fertilizer Ministry with our Ministry of Petroleum taking very serious meetings with the Fertilizer Ministries. So that also we are expecting to have better things because MDA, they have already approved 1,500 per ton. That's very good news. And also commitment by the companies to offtake. So I think in the very near future, you are going to get a lot of enablers as a package because already there are, but there are a few more enablers which we faced over a period of time and we have flagged it and our ministry has been very active and proactive to in this. So with that, we will expect from the bankers more flexibility with respect to these things.
Yes, sir. We have already, since this project is under initial stage, we do face a lot of difficulties, including unit cost, because there is no fixed unit cost, just like in other this one, sir. That also we have already escalated, and as you told, other issues. Since member banks are also initially they are hesitating to take up such projects because they don't have any much exposure in this line. Ethanol, we have already excelled. And in coming days, definitely, we are also giving more thrust on this one to take up the new projects wherever it is there. And in our bank itself, we have so many lead generators so that wherever new proposals or new projects are being taken up, we will be contacting them through our this one, and we will be taking up looking forward for financing such units also, sir. And whatever the issues are there, initially TAT and all those things, we are addressing, sir. And on second of this month also, we addressed, we had a discussion with our member banks, and also we replied the queries raised by the ministry, and we are working on it. And definitely, we will assure that, sir, our cooperation and the involvement in processing of CBG, this one, it will be improved, sir.
Yeah, that's very nice to hear, Mr. Manjunath. Thank you very much. One point I will just take the advantage of presence of Dr. Srivastava, and I will come to Mr. Mainak after a couple of minutes. Dr. Srivastava, there is an issue by banks. They are facing sometimes the technology, what they are getting. Say, I am an NY holder, I have got a technology, I am just offering it. Appraising the technology, evaluating the technology for banks is becoming sometimes a big challenge because there are multiplicities of that and there is not much of standardization in this field. Because they don't know whether this technology ultimately will be giving the desired results as we claimed. So here, I would like to have your quick views on how we can really address this particular area. Dr. Srivastava, please.
Yeah, I can only say that, when we develop the technology in the laboratory, the technology is developed under very controlled conditions, and there are not many uncertainties involved. And with all my experience of 3 decades developing the technologies and technology-driven products, I would suggest that the banks and all the lenders should depend on the laboratories where they can witness the performance of a particular technology. For example, taking the CBG as a case in point, whatever is the feedstock, we have an equipment which is the BMP, biomass biomethanation potential equipment. We can introduce that particular feedstock in that equipment. That equipment will run as per the process flow of the technology, and you will get the yield. That is one yield, which is the maximum yield you can get in the field, because in the field there are so many other uncertainties that come into play, and then you will never realize that kind of a figure in the field. But whatever are the lab equipment results, you can of course discount with some uncertainties, like you get 6% in the lab, you can evaluate it for 4%, giving all the weightage to the uncertainties which are there in the field. Because evaluating a technology in the field is actually very, very difficult. There are so many variations that come into play, you will not be able to actually come up even with the same feed and the same technology. If it is being used in two different locations, the yield may differ because of the water quality, because of the way the plant is being managed, because of the purification technology, and so on and so forth. So that is coming from a pure R&D person. Coming to next step, if there are some pilot plants available, that could also be one resource or one recourse to evaluate the technology for the lenders. Of course, the ultimate is a fully commercial running plant on a particular feed. If you can see that, it will be really very good. And here I like to propose that along with the banks, let there be some insurers coming into play, so that at least for the first time when a technology is being demonstrated, there is a risk involved, there is a capex involved. So if it can be covered for the first time, the technology, including the feed and every other component of the plant, then insurers can also cover for one plant, and then it can be established. So that is my answer to this question.
That's thank you very much. It's giving a very good fillip to the fraternity who are witnessing this webinar today. Thank you very much, Dr. Srivastav. Thank you very much, Mr. Manjunath, for your well thought of discussion and presentations. So we look forward for more support from banking industries, and also to prosper the CBG the way we dream. Your support is absolutely taken. That's all. Otherwise, we cannot do anything. Thank you very much again. So now I will come back to a very young entrepreneurs, and it's making its own mark. Mr. Mainak Chakrabarti from GPS Renewable. He's a seasoned leader with a proven track record propelling growth and innovation within biofuel sector. He is struggling a lot for good number of years, over 17 years after doing his MBAs from Bangalore, and also having an engineer, electronics and communication engineer. They are doing an EPC. They have developed the technology and good tie-ups with international agencies. So I will request Mr. Mainak to cover up in two ways. One, we would like to have your view as an entrepreneur. Like when you are developing by yourself, you spend money, you are risking your funds, and how you look at in this segment of Satat. And then I will come to have got three top priorities, which as a country, we should consider to achieve 15 million metric ton of CBG capacity within maybe another 3 to 4 years' time. Over to you, Mr. Mainak.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. So to answer the first part, maybe as an entrepreneur, how I look at this sector, and maybe as far as the message for other people in the sector is concerned, I'll start with a small story of hope. Sir, I come from a middle-class background, like most of our fellow countrymen. I was born and brought up in a small state called Mizoram. Fast forward today, sir. GPS is at a very fast-growing track. We have an order book of around 1,000 crores and all. In the next 2 years, our aspiration is to grow to $1 billion revenue stage, and we feel that is definitely possible. So, sir, I mean, the reason I'm highlighting that is, if we could do this, this is something that others could do also. And and when we started, we had no money of our own. We started this company after college. So it is possible to build companies from scratch, grow them to a sizable scale in India. And sitting here in India, our entire business has been in India so far. So I think, so this is, like us, sir, I think many others have, like the country today presents the opportunity to build and scale up in India. And I'm grateful, and I'm thankful that we have this ecosystem in India today. I strongly feel the action is in India today, apart from a very handful of countries across the world. So as an entrepreneur and for fellow entrepreneurs, I think there couldn't have been a better time. It's great that policies like Satat came in. There is no doubt about the fact that these are the policies which have now heated up the sector. We had started off with small-scale biogas plants a couple of years back, but today the growth that we are seeing, it's on the basis of Satat. So while there are there are certain challenges, and I'll come to that. But still, as a very proud Indian, as a Deshbhakt, I strongly feel that the right ecosystem has been set up, the right fundamentals are there, and there is room for entrepreneurs of every kind, right from project developers to technology players to EPC companies to equipment suppliers. What Dr. Srivastava sir also mentioned about. So there is room for all. There are problem areas or opportunities in every subsector of the region. So that's I would say that's a bit from the entrepreneurial part. So I think I see immense scope in this sector, and I undoubtedly feel that this is the future. Now, having said that, as far as the challenges concerned, there are a number of them. If we have to reach the stated targets now, according to me, as per my assessment, the three top priority areas would be first and foremost the supports of the bank. We need more projects to come up, more project developers to come up, and all. I do understand the bank's perspective also. There are certain challenges that a bank would be seeing. Having said that, one of the key things that from a project developer's perspective that we find is that the challenge becomes when people have to put up collaterals, etc. And that is a concern which many project developers, LOI developers across the country have. Not everybody might have generational wealth and all. Having said that, they still might have been able to incubate investment-worthy projects. They might have done all the diligence. They might have been able to tie up feedstock, tie up the offtake, etc., tie up with the right technology companies, and they might have a robust financial model. The challenge is when certain constraints such as the requirement of collaterals come in. So that is one. So it requires mutual trust, and all important stakeholders need to work together. But I see that as one of the challenges. The other thing is that what I was about to also talk about it, what Srivastava said, spoke about the insurance part. Need for better insurance products in the country. There have been a few examples, things like insurance products around yield, like so instead of banks, a separate set of players such as insurance companies who could do an independent assessment of the potential yields from different feedstocks and give a roll out a product which the banks can take comfort in. So I think that could be really instrumental in scaling that up. And the final thing would be the ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, there are multiple sub-technology or products that come in, right from pre-treatment to biogas upgradation. There are multiple pathways and all. Today, there are just a handful of suppliers in all these areas. We need a much more robust ecosystem. It is happening. We see that happening. I think in a year or two, we'll be seeing multiple players out there. But I do feel it's a matter of time. Having said that, as we speak today, the ecosystem it is still at a nascent phase. So that is one of the bottlenecks that the kind of the industry faces. So these, according to me, would be the three challenges which are definitely solvable. But these are some initial stumbling blocks that could come in the way of the national technology, the targets as per my assessment.
Yeah, thank you, Bainak. But one last question, that is, what you believe that 15 million metric ton CBG production, because maybe 5,000 plants, if the capacity of plant is higher, it may be erecting 2,500, 3,000 plants. I'm not going by the number of plants, I'm going with the capacity. So as a country, we need at least 80 to 90 million tons of gas by the year 2028. So what in your mind that you feel that these three bold decisions or bold policies is required for achieving that 15 million metric ton by that?
Right, sir. So I think I mean, there have been a lot of studies done on the feedstock availability. There have been, so obviously, IOCL and OMCs have done their studies. There are third-party agencies, a lot of consulting firms have done their studies. And all. We work with some of the biggest consulting firms as well. So I think there are a lot of study there which prove that there is enough biomass in the country. So be it paddy straw or other biomass feedstocks, there is MSW, of course. And finally, a lot of work, sir, has started happening around energy crops such as napier, grass, etc. So altogether, I think there is enough feedstock. It's just that they need to be converted into projects. So as far as hitting that potential is concerned, I don't see feedstock as a other challenge. Availability of feedstock, rather, there needs to be better framing of possibly policies around securing the supply of feedstock, and it's already happening in certain states. Many states are taking the lead, like UP, Haryana, etc. So that's happening. But point number one is, sir, I don't think feedstock is a challenge. The country has enough biomass resources or land resources to, without at the same time affecting food security. I'm not talking of taking up agricultural land for growing energy crops, but there are enough arid land, etc. And let's say an investor or a bank can take enough comfort on that part. And I'm saying from an overall ESG perspective also, we need to balance both bioenergy as well as the environmental and other aspects. So feedstock is abundantly available. So that's one thing. Technology players are coming up. We are one of them, but there are many others prominent names out there. So so while at the early stages of any industry, there might be certain hiccups, there are learnings, but there are enough technology players. Many technology players from Europe and all are coming to India. They are forming various kinds of tie-ups and all. So technology is not a stumbling block. And finally, for the optics, the OMCs have already taken the lead. So I don't see that as a challenge. I strongly feel that is a very achievable target. I feel it's a matter of time. It's a very big target. No country has taken a target of this nature. So I mean, for such a large target, a few years here and there is it can take. But I feel this is a very tangible target.
Very nice, Mainak. Thank you very much for a very comprehensive views as an entrepreneur, as a technology provider, as an EPC company. So, and also as a struggling newcomer in this field, but making a stride and taking it forward. All the best to you for your all the missions. I see Dr. Srivastava, you want to add something, or I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I think I want to just say one thing with respect to your question, what we should be doing to make Satat successful with all the 15 million metric ton and whatever are the targets. One single issue that can actually help us reach there is aggregation of feedstock. Feedstock is there. We know technologies are there. And everything else will fall in place, and it's not with this only CBG, which is a waste to wealth kind of a technology, be it plastics or be it anything that is waste to value kind of a technology. Aggregation, collection is the main issue. If that can be solved, I think we will reach there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I personally thank each of partners, Dr. Srivastava, Mr. Manjunath, and Mr. Mainak, for giving wholehearted, open feelings and the views, which is going to really help us making or preparing the contours of this very ambitious program. And it's so much required. This is the required. In addition to the energy security, it also gives the whole greening. And the absolute 100% green product, you can really make it. So thank you very much for your time, and also for giving this your well thought of suggestions. So over to Mr. Raut for taking it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for spearheading the discussion around Satat, how to enhance the capacity to meet the Government of India's target. And also all the panelists, I will thank you to Mr. Umi Srivastava and Mr. K. Manjunath and Mr. Manek Chakravarti. So now we'll move to the next topic, that is sustainable aviation fuel challenges anticipated and how to overcome them. So we have three panelists, Mrs. Ekta Agrawal, Assistant Director, DGCA, Mr. Amol Nisal, AVP Praj Industries, and Mrs. Kriti Das from BIS, Bureau of Indian Standard. And with us, the role of moderator will be carried out by Dr. Anjan Rai, who is the ex-director of CSIR IIP Dehradun, and he's a chemistry man with a doctorate degree from University of Pennsylvania, USA, and he also currently working as an adjunct faculty at IIT Delhi, and he's the man behind our first flight of bio ATF in 2018, that is 25% bio ATF blending that was operated in SpiceJet flight from Dehradun to Delhi, and also the man instrumental in introduction of Dil Saf brand in SF, that is drop-in liquid for sustainable automobile and aviation waste. Dil Saf is the brand name given by the CSR IIB team under his leadership when he was in charge of CSR IIP. So I will now hand over the session to Mr. Anjan Rai.
Thank you very much, and greetings of World Biofuel Day to all our distinguished panelists and attendees. It is a pleasure to be on this forum again. Biofuels has been very close to my heart since I first got involved in the area back in 2003. So this is my 20th year in the biofuel space. And I was listening to the earlier discussions with great interest, particularly the discussion around finance and bankability, because we are now talking about real-time scale-up and deployment. And nowhere is finance and bankability more important than in the area of sustainable aviation fuel, where we are dealing with a global ecosystem. Unlike in ethanol and CBG, where the demand is mostly local, in SAF, not only is the demand global, the determinants of our ability to meet that demand are also global because of the CORSIA framework. I would like to highlight, before I hand over to our three very distinguished panelists, I would like to highlight three attributes of where we are today. The first is that proof of concept with indigenous technology has been very well established, both by Praj Industries, who flew a flight just a couple of months ago with 0.75% of biofuel, and earlier with SpiceJet and my former organization, CSR Indian Institute of Petroleum, where we had flown one engine on 25% biofuel. So this has created the necessary groundwork for SAF plants to come up in India, being set up by Indian Oil and Mangalore refineries, and both expected to be operational by 2025. However, the issue around feedstock availability remains a concern because India is a net importer of carbon atoms. We import about 330 million tons every year. This number was 350 million tons in 2018. And the reduction has come mainly from two initiatives, ethanol and satat. But it is a matter of grave concern, and I think policymakers must take a note of this, that we are continuing to export biofuel feedstocks, including fats and oils and including biomass, to other countries which have greater incentives for biofuel, which means that ultimately our country is deprived of the ability to use our own resources through policies that are enabling other countries to use them. This has to be addressed. In that context, we should also encourage much larger scale planting of biomass crops. We have close to 70 million hectares of uncropped land and 40 million hectares of irrigated monocropped land. So I would strongly encourage, again, all institutional stakeholders to at least do CSR activities on either fallow land, which is monocropped and already been irrigated, or unutilized or underutilized land, so that we can increase our biomass potential significantly. I saw questions on napier grass, etc., but napier grass, oil seeds, even palm oil have to be thought through, and it should not be because there is a bandwagon that we climb that bandwagon. We must make sure that the supply chain is integrated and delivered. I particularly liked what was said about use of maize for ethanol, because when you use maize for ethanol, you produce a byproduct called ICO, inedible corn oil, which can again further go back into SAF production. These are important supply chain considerations, but let us go to the three panelists. First, I have Ms. Ekta Agarwal, Assistant Director, DGCA, who has been with DGCA for a long time and has enormous experience in international negotiations on SAF. She has critical responsibilities on regulatory and operational aspects of civil aviation, not only with industry standards and safety protocols, but actually with SAF development. Over to Ms. Ekta.
Thank you so much, sir.
You'll have to unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Good afternoon to everyone and greetings of the World Biofuel Day. It's indeed a pleasure to be here as a panelist in this session. Talking about sustainable aviation fuels, we came across the terms not more than I think 5 years or so. And why this happened? What were the drivers in aviation for sustainable aviation fuel? As sir has already mentioned, one of was CORSIA, which was introduced in the year 2019. And there are two other goals of ICAO. One is carbon neutral growth from 2020 onwards, and another is the long-term aspiration goal, net zero by 2050. So these are the two major drivers for aviation right now to think about the sustainable aviation fuels. Even as per the international studies, it has been shown that SAF is the only feasible measure which will be able to achieve these goals through the use of SAF, LCAF, and other cleaner energies. Not just SAF, yes, LCAF and other cleaner energy is also top of the town right now in the international sector. So I'll start with CORSIA, just a little brief, as everyone on this forum would be aware of this term. It is Carbon Offsetting Reduction Scheme in International Aviation. It is basically a global market-based measure adopted by ICAO to achieve carbon neutral growth in international aviation sector from 2020, using the average annual emissions of 19 and 20 as baseline. This was the pre-COVID era, where we thought the aviation might rise in the years of 19 and 20, but this was not the scenario. So this scheme was revisited in the preceding years, and it has been decided to adopt a baseline of 2019 from 21 to 23, and now it has been 85% of 2019 emissions from 24 onwards. Now coming to the Indian scenario, we are already aware that India is not participating in the voluntary phases of CORSIA, which is from 21 to 26, but 27 it is mandatory phase, where all our emissions from the international sector will be offsetted either through purchase of the carbon credits from the ICAO schemes, or we can use SAF. So talking to the environment, the best would be if we are able to, our airlines are able to nurture the use of SAF, will be a great opportunity for us. I'll just give you a brief on the emissions of our international air sector, how the growth has been after COVID. We thought that we will recover as an aviation as a sector by 2024 or 2025, that we'll be able to achieve the emissions of 2019 in that years. But just to inform that in the year 2022, we have already crossed 85% of the 2019 emissions, which shows that this sector is growing at a tremendous rate. And maybe this year we may cross 2019 emissions. So we are on a high recovery growth as estimated by ICAO in their studies also. This is one of the another driver is long-term aspirational goal, which has been recently adopted by ICAO in the 41st Assembly, which was held in the year 2022, where it says that ICAO and its member states will work towards a collective long-term goal of achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. This is in support of the Paris Agreement for temperature goal, and they also recognize that each state special circumstances are there, respective capabilities are there, and everyone can inform the ability to reach the LTAG in their own, as per their own national time frame. And we already know that our Honorable PM has committed as net zero by 2070 for India. So we are pitching on the same line, and we are thinking that we should be net zero by 2070. But this does not stop the efforts in the aviation sector. We have to work towards the 2070 goal also. And for international, it is little fast, because all the developed world and all the countries outside, they are much more ahead on this journey of net zero from us. As per the analysis, it has been estimated that only 0.15 billion liters of SAF has been produced till year 2022. Now it has been geared up. There are many projects are underway and they are coming up. And by 2045, aviation sector will be needing 636 billion liters to replace all the fossil fuels. which is indeed a big number for us. So it's a need to immediately action to fully realize the SAF potentials. And why just we talk about SAF? Because electric and hydrogen energy, they are some of our short haul and their medium haul operations can be used for that. But right now what we see feasibly sustainable aviation fuel. After that, just to recognize and to show that India is not behind, we have worked in this area. We had a committee formed under Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. We are also part of ICAO Act SAF program. Then the first flight which happened in the year 2018 was from Jatropha seeds. We had our own indigenous produced biofuel, 25% of the flight. Then we have also granted approval to our ferry flights from international sector with 10% blended fuel. Now Airbus has announced that they are going to put 5% blended fuel for all the ferry flights. Now, and we have also granted approval to Mrs. AirAsia to carry out its first commercial domestic flight, which has been already talked about, Dr. Ray. This was just a synopsis. Now the major thing is the challenges. We all know there are two major challenges associated with SAF. One is price and one other is availability. But these two challenges are very much known, but I would like to pitch into the major other challenges which are behind these challenges. If those are met, we can say that we may meet the availability and price challenge. So the first and foremost is the finance, and above that is the access to finance. We already see that, we already talk about it. We know that everyone is saying there's finance available, but where, how to access it? Basically in the terms of developing nations, how to access it? The 2/3 of the world's population is in developing countries, and we don't have even access to even 1/5 of the investment which has been offered to us as to the developing countries. So where is the lacking? Why we are not able to access this finance? What is the prior problem? Is it the risk in the giving, or the soft loans, or the high rate of interest? This all need to be worked on. There should be harmonized framework for SAF financing. There should also be a climate finance data portal where all the countries, all the developing countries can visit and see that how to access the finance, and how to see what to see that which countries and which phase, what is the status of feedstock, what are the pathways, technology, so that this area is not left unknown to anyone. And another important is the barriers to new entrants, like the methodologies, everything which has been framed, it has been framed as per the countries who are right now matured in production of SAF. The one is the LCA methodology used for SAF, but being India, which is a new entrant, we should not have barriers to that. And another is the regional and national roadmaps for implementation. All the countries, including India, should have a roadmap for implementation of SAF. And these are not just the challenges at the state level, it's at the global level. So we as DGCA, we are raising our concerns again at every forum to meet these challenges. And even in India, I would request that these challenges are being looked into, and we can frame a roadmap towards the successful deployment of SAF in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ekta. As always, a very clear and focused exposition. I think that it sets very much the stage for our next speaker, Mr. Amol Nisal, Associate Vice President from Praj Industries, who has been with this company for over 12 years and is considered a frontrunner in business development strategy, technology commercialization, etc. So he spearheads the SAF division efforts in Praj and has had long experience in other corporate roles with Delta T Corporation and Tata Motors, and has a postgraduate diploma in management from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Mr. Nisal, we look forward to hearing from you on what are the likely best case, worst case scenarios that you foresee for India, the world on SAF, coming from your vantage point as a technology provider and producer.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ray. And first of all, I would like to wish everyone a very happy World Biofuel Day, and would like to thank MOPNG for providing Praj an opportunity to present in this esteemed forum. So talking about sustainable aviation fuel, I would like to first talk about three recent news that were there in the public media. The first news, as of course talked by Dr. Ray, is that India's first commercial passenger flight was flown on SAF that was produced in our R&D center and laboratory in Pune. And it took almost 1 year for the entire journey, right from producing the necessary sample, testing it to the desired international and Indian standards, and then getting necessary approvals for flying the flight. And it was a very rigorous and extensive experience to fly India's first commercial passenger flight powered by the blend of SAF. Recently, Praj, which is in existence for past 4 decades and has been a leader in providing technology solutions for biofuels, right from bioethanol, second generation biofuels, or sustainable aviation fuel. Recently, we have tied up with Indian Oil Corporation, and we have signed up a term sheet to establish a joint venture corporation in collaboration with Indian Oil. And the first plant that we are going to build under this joint venture would be a plant to produce sustainable aviation fuel. And the third news that I want to highlight here is that exactly 1 year ago, that is on 10th of August 2022, Honorable Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Modi, inaugurated India's first second generation ethanol plant built up by Indian Oil and with the technology supplied by Praj. And we are a very proud technology supplier for providing second generation ethanol technology for India's first second generation ethanol plant. So these are the three news items that I just wanted to highlight. Now, talking about the challenges related to the SAF commercialization, we believe that there are very serious challenges related to the pricing of SAF and commercial viability as of now. But we are still very positive that India has the potential to not only overcome these challenges, but and not only fulfill the domestic demand for SAF, but also become an international hub for supply of SAF. And we believe that because right now, there are challenges related to the pricing of the cost of SAF. As many of you know that the cost of SAF is almost 2 to 5 times than that of the cost of fossil jet fuel. And it depends on the feedstock and depends on the technology pathway that you employ. So how are you going to bridge this cost gap? That is the major challenge that we believe. And when we take the example of the policies that have been established in United States and Europe, we feel a ray of hope that it is also very much possible in India. If you take a look at the policies in United States for SAF, you will see that the cost gap of around 3 to 4x can be bridged by establishing necessary carbon markets, either at a local level or at the federal or national level, and also providing certain incentives like viability gap funding or federal tax benefits. And United States has been a very successful example of commercializing SAF in spite of not having the commercial viability for production of SAF on its own. And on the other hand, we have example of Europe, where Europe is putting up the regulatory mandate to blend certain percentage of SAF with that of fossil ATF. So we believe that with the necessary and appropriate policy mechanism, with certain incentivization as well as certain regulations, it is possible to bridge the cost gap that is in existence today for production of SAF, and that will pave the way for commercialization of SAF in India. India is blessed with availability of surplus feedstock. If you take a look at the second generation feedstock, almost 100 million metric tons of second generation feedstock or agricultural residues, forest residues is burnt on the field every year. And if we can convert this agricultural residue into SAF, there is a potential to fulfill 100% of SAF demand, 100% of replacement of ATF is possible. But considering that technology is still maturing, we need to take certain steps in commercializing the technology for second generation ethanol and subsequently converting second generation ethanol into sustainable aviation fuel. But we believe that it is very well possible, considering the availability of surplus biomass in India. It is very well possible for India to achieve the necessary demand of SAF. And however, necessary policies and establishment of supply chain is of prime importance for successful commercialization of SAF. So what we believe is that establishment of appropriate policies with government intervention related to viability gap funding or tax credit, establishment of carbon markets, and establishment of supply chain for collection, logistics, and delivery of biomass to the SAF producer will play a great role in successful commercialization of SAF in India. On the technology front, we believe that we are there. The technologies are rapidly maturing, and India has access to these rapidly maturing technologies. Now, Dr. Ray has developed a technology based on HEFA pathway. Praj has also tied up with American partner Gevo Incorporation in United States, and as well as Accents Incorporation in France, to provide end-to-end solutions for production of SAF based on alcohol to jet technology, which seems to have a great potential in India to produce, to get deployed and produce SAF in India. So we believe that the feedstock challenges, technology challenges, and policy-related challenges can very well be overcome with establishment of carbon markets, establishment of policies, and necessary infrastructure and the supply chain for biomass.
Thank you, Mr. Nisal. Did we lose you, or?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Very, very clear exposition there.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to add? Thank you. We'll go on to our next speaker. I think this was a very clear and detailed capture of the core issues, which I will summarize later. But I'd like to first go over to Ms. Kriti Das from the Bureau of Indian Standards. Ms. Kriti holds a master's degree in chemical and biomolecular engineering from National University of Singapore. And she has shown great skill in managing projects that lead to both Indian and international standards, working closely with stakeholders and within the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Ms. Das, over to you. A very important component of our discussion today.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, you are. Please proceed.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to thank MOPNG for giving this opportunity today to BIS to explain the scenario of sustainable aviation fuels from the point of standardization. So I would like to inform the forum here that BIS has published a standard IS 17081-2019 on sustainable aviation fuel. So five synthetic routes for formulation of sustainable aviation fuel has been prescribed in the standard 17081. This includes the synthesized paraffinic kerosene, which is produced through the Fischer-Tropsch process using synthesis gas, and also the HEFA, which is hydrogenated esters and fatty acids, synthesized paraffinic kerosene, which was researched at IIP and was also the fuel which was used, which was blended 25% in the SpiceJet flight. The third is the SIP, which is the synthesized isoparaffin from fermented sugars. and the synthesized paraffinic kerosene containing light aromatics derived from non-petroleum sources. And the fifth one is the alcohol to jet synthesized paraffinic kerosene. So these 5 synthetic routes have been prescribed in the standard. And since aviation fuel is a global commodity, if I may say, and international flights are refueled at several countries, and there has to be a global harmonization between the specification of synthetic aviation fuel. So our standard IS 17081 is aligned with the ASTM D7566, which is the specification for synthetic aviation fuels, as well as DEFSTAN, which is the standard of UK Ministry of Defense, DEFSTAN 91091. So the 5 synthetic routes which are prescribed in IS 17081 are given in the annexes of ASTM D7566. Now, considering the challenges which standardization faces with respect to synthetic aviation fuel, is that it is very much dominated by ASTM. Like Ms. Ekta said that standardizations and regulations are currently dominated by countries who are much ahead of us in this area. So ASTM is the major dominating standardization body which is currently there in this sector. So any new synthetic fuel which has to be approved and evaluated for use in blending has to go through the testing procedure which has been defined in ASTM D4054. So ASTM D4054 gives the entire set of test procedures and methods which a new synthetic fuel has to follow, and the report has to be generated. That report has to be reviewed by ASTM members. But that also is not the final approval procedure for any kind of new SAF. Despite the report generated from ASTM D4054, the fuel is again further subject to internal review by OEMs. So ASTM is a standard making body which is currently composed of manufacturers, and the standard is made by manufacturers, and the standard is supposed to be followed globally by all countries. So that creates a skew of balance. So this does not include the global stakeholder interests or global stakeholder views. The balance is very skewed towards manufacturers here. So that is a great challenge which the standardization sector is facing right now. In March this year, BIS attended a meeting which was organized by Ministry of Defense UK, and it was also participated by members from ASTM and as well as all the major airline OEMs were there in the meeting. During the meeting, BIS was questioned regarding the test methods which we have prescribed in our standard IS 17081 as well as IS 1571 on aviation fuel. So while making standards, we always try to keep the interests of the end consumer in mind. So we prescribe standards which are globally relevant, like ISO standards, which are truly international, because ISO is represented by 168 member countries. So we refer ISO standards as test methods, and for our Indian consumers, we refer Indian standards as test methods. But to also keep pace with the relevant international technologies, we ensure that the ISO standards and the Indian standards are aligned with the latest technologies which are prescribed in the ASTM standards. However, even though the test method and the technology which is used is the same in the ASTM standard and the Indian standard and the ISO standard, this is a major point of contention with European countries and US, that if we refer to Indian standards or ISO standards as test method in our Indian standards, then our fuel will not pass regulatory clearance in US or UK and Europe. So this is a major problem which our country will face in implementation of sustainable aviation fuel in future, especially since India has to follow the CORSIA framework from 2027 onwards. So this is a major challenge I foresee. One solution to this challenge can be greater participation in ISO. If we see ISO, there is hardly any subject being discussed on sustainable aviation fuel or test methods for sustainable aviation fuel or the evaluation procedure or test methods which can lead to approval of new sustainable aviation. So one path forward will be greater participation in ISO and standardization of international standards, that is ISO standards on sustainable aviation fuel and related test methods. And we from BIS, along with our technical committee PCD3 on fuels, we are continuously on this effort to increase participation of India in ISO and to take up this subject in ISO. So that is all from BIS. Sir, I would thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kriti. I think you touched upon a very important area of multilateral negotiations with regard to standards. We should be aware that standards, particularly in the area of SAF, are critical because at the end of the day, once a plane flies, if the fuel has any issues, there is no recourse to the passengers or the crew or the aircraft owner. And that is why the standards have been so stringent, and there is a move to keep them rationalized globally. At the same time, the standards, unless participated internationally by all stakeholders, can become non-tariff barriers for stakeholders in the global south. We've had a very good discussion. I know we are almost out of time, so let me ask the organizers if we have time to address a few of the questions that are posted on the chat. And if not, then we can wrap up. Comment from the organizers, please. Mr. Raut.
Yes, sir. 5 minutes. You can take 5 minutes to answer the questions.
All right, excellent. Then let me first ask the question from HPCL. Madam Vijayalakshmi has a lot of questions actually, but let me try to take her one key question on what should be the way forward and what major aspects should one look for in scaling up green technologies from lab to commercial unit in India. Mr. Nisal, would you like to take that? I think that's well appropriate for you. You're on mute, sir. Could you please unmute?
Yes, yeah, sure. So the question is, what lessons we can learn from other countries' biofuel mix? Is that right? Which question?
No, the question is, what are the major aspects one should look for scaling up green technologies from lab to commercial scale?
Yes. So definitely. So I can give you an example of the second generation ethanol that has been scaled up successfully and on commercial scale. So basically, when we are developing or commercializing any technology, we need to start small at the laboratory level or at the bench scale, and subsequently we can go scale up the unit and demonstrate the technology. To give you an example about second generation ethanol, we started our first pilot scale plant in our R&D center in Pune back in 2009, and the capacity of the plant was 1 ton per day. So it had the capacity to process 1 metric ton of biomass per day. Then subsequently we scaled up the capacity and set up a demonstration scale facility again at Pune, but now it was in adjacent to the sugar factory. And the capacity of the demonstration plant was 12 metric tons per day. So in this case, what we did is that we scaled up the technology 12 times, 12x, and we subsequently carried out extensive experimentation on the variety of feedstock, variety of biomass, be it wheat straw, rice straw, or any other biomass such as forest residues, including forest residues. And in this technology, we evaluated various enzymes, we carried out extensive design of experiments to optimize the technology. And subsequently, various trials by third parties have also been taken up. The extensive due diligence was also carried out by oil marketing companies such as Indian Oil. And subsequently, we scaled up the technology 35x and we designed and set up a plant for Indian Oil to process around 425 metric tons per day of biomass into ethanol. So this is how the technology journey was, like right from starting with the bench scale trials, going to the pilot scale with 1 ton, going to the demonstration scale of 12 metric tons per day, and subsequently to the commercial scale of 425 metric tons per day of biomass. So the similar extensive experimentation and development is also being carried out in case of development of technologies for SAF. And this is a typical cycle for development of technologies and deployment of technologies in this field for biofuels.
Thank you, Mr. Nisal. Ms. Ekta, 2 questions for you. One from Ms. Vijayalakshmi Anand. What lessons can we learn from other countries' biofuel mix? And the other from Mr. Naveen Singh. By when, of course, that's a very loaded question, is government policy for SAF mandate expected as we have for ethanol? You're on mute.
Yeah. What we can learn that India is not similar country like US and Europe. Like US have adopted the model for incentives and subsidies to the fuel producers. They are not bringing any mandate. They have launched a challenge, grand challenge in the form of they have dedicated a huge sum of money towards it, and they are promoting the fuel biofuel producers there. And on the other side, Europe, they have come up with a mandate of refuel aviation, by which they'll start mandating to 1%, 2% of take from the airports SAF, and they have put every year they have put an increase in the mandate. So looking at the India situation, we cannot just drive our either a mandate or just the subsidies. The policy should be a mix of mandate and subsidies and incentives. And to answer the question by what time we can accept the policy, that I'm not the right person to answer that because this issue has to be policy has to be decided at the very higher level. But yes, we are all working towards it, and it is a necessity of the country right now, because from 2027 it is very much essential for our airline operators that their growth is not hampered, and we can also by purchasing of the carbon offsets and purchasing SAF from the outside countries. So we are looking as fast as India can produce its own SAF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ekta. I think that is all we will have time for. So I'd like to hand it back to the organizers with thanks once again to all our esteemed panelists.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. You have nicely conducted the discussion on sustainable aviation fuels. It is always a pleasure to listen to you, and as well as all the panelists who spoke very well on the SAF and challenges associated with it. So now we'll move on to the next topic, that is biodiesel, addressing challenges related to feedstock procurement and its prices. So we have 3 panelists. First one is Mr. Sandeep Chaturvedi from BDI, Biodiesel Development Authority of India, and next is Mr. Sumit Sarkar, who is CEO Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority, and third one is Mr. HME Murthy, Secretary in Nageshwar Charitable Trust, who is into tree-borne oil, and he's working extensively in the rural sector and tribal area. And IOC, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, has already an MOU with Nageshwar Charitable Trust on TBO, tree-borne oil. So to moderate this discussion, we have with us Mr. Sanjay Parasar, Executive Director, Supplies, Indian Oil Corporation Limited. He has 3 decades experience in operations, HR, and various other areas in IOCL functioning. And he is currently managing the mammoth IOCL supply chain in the country. Entire supply and distribution of petroleum products he is looking after. So I will hand over the session to Mr. Sanjay Parasar.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. I think I hope I am audible. I'm actually outside.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, Sanjay.
Right. Yeah. So, I think it's a very interesting topic. We are talking about addressing challenges related to feedstock procurement and prices. I think if you look at the biodiesel program, the Planning Commission launched the National Biodiesel Mission in 2002-2003. And the purchase policy was implemented by the Government of India in 2005, October 2005, actually, which has become effective from 1/1/2006. So, and oil marketing companies, they started blending of biodiesel from 10/8/2015. Till then, we have come a long way, since we have all, from a blending percentage from 0.02 in 2015, and then we have again reached to 0.38%. As on 2023, which is the highest so far. But during the pandemic year in 2019 and 20, it has certainly taken a hit. And during that, we all are aware that this was the issue, that we were not able to get the feedstock and because of COVID pandemic, and there are a host of issues. But now, basically the feedstock, whenever we are talking about a feedstock, predominantly it is now the palm stearing oil, which is being used. Almost it is 94%, and see animal tallow, which is almost around 2.5%, acid oil 2.5%, and almost UCO, which we are talking about, it is 1%. But majority of the things, if suppose we are talking about a palm stearing oil, it is being used, it is being imported, because it is a very, very less availability in India. So per se, if you look at the entire process, we are finding it actually difficult in matching the rate because of the high volatility. And the issues related to that, although we have a consumption of roughly around 23 million tons of the vegetable oil consumption in India, but in spite of all that, it is hardly 1% is UCO which is being used for this purpose. The reasons are various. I think we have got three very eminent the speakers, panelists who are already there. Already the introduction has already been done about the panelists. Sri Sandeep Chaturvedi, who is already the Biodiesel Association, the President Chairman of the Biodiesel Association of India, and then remain in the forefront of the biodiesel blending program. He is the man behind many innovative steps being taken ahead of the biodiesel blending program, which was in a very nascent stage in 2015 and is trying to master its maturity. He has been heading BDI and is providing all the support to the different stakeholders in this program to help ensure the success is achieved. I think I would request Mr. Chaturvedi to let us know the plans of association as and going to alternate feedstock is looking at right now. The most important aspect of that is Hello. Is it okay? I'm audible?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Sandeep Chaturvedi, I think you can start. Being the, I have already.
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yes,
very warm good afternoon. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, congratulations to all biofuel industry stakeholders on World Biofuel Day. And this was the brainchild of the Petroleum Ministry and the OMCs way back in 2015. Because on this day, Rudolf Diesel introduced bean seed oil as biodiesel for the first time. And that was in 1860, long back, much before crude was discovered in Pennsylvania in 1906. I would straight away go to the issues, indicated by the moderator. I'm quite happy with the progress that we have made under the Petroleum Ministry, and all credit goes to the OMC team, which has taken everything on a very hands-on way, and the present team that is handling the tendering and the blending process at all the three OMCs are doing an extremely excellent job, and the words are matched with the performance. I still remember that we used to have only 6 or 7 suppliers of biodiesel all across the country. Today we have 61. And this number is going to increase. We had 1.2 million ton installed capacity, but hardly anything was working. Today, by end of this financial year, we will have 2 million tons of installed capacity, and I'm quite glad that most of it will be operational. The very interesting and important part of it is the OMCs have ensured that blending takes place across the country in an even way. So, friends, what is happening now, 6 or maybe around 10 plants of large capacities coming up in East Coast, Krishnapatnam, then Mangaluru, Chennai, Gujarat, Delhi NCR. These are of large capacities, and with this, we will have almost 60% of the capacity spread across the 4 corners of the country, which is quite heartening. And then the number of this 61 plants, which are of various capacities from 50 tons to 100 tons to 200 tons to 400 tons, this will go up to, I think, minimum 100 by maybe a couple of years. That should be. So probably we will be covering all the 288 depots where blending is taking place. And by 1st of April 2024, if the government of India decides that the blending mandate has to be 1%, biodiesel will be available. And how it will be available, I'll just share with you. Now, as Sanjay ji pointed out in the beginning, that during the Corona period, no feedstock was available. He is very right. Our industry suffered, but we thank the Petroleum Ministry and the OMCs to extend a hand. And as you can see, there is a peak in 1920, 10.55 crore liters was supplied. And I used to think that this is the best year for biodiesel. And one cycle in 2022-23, just one cycle, that is 3 months, the industry could supply 6.05 crore liters. And for the current year's friend, we are very glad to share that 11.57 crore liters was supplied to the OMCs in spite of all the feedstock issues, problems, because the biodiesel industry has been doing its job in a very excellent manner. They have been in a position to, because one of the conditions that has been imposed on us is to use only indigenous feedstock, which is a challenge sometimes. But, we are with the government, we are with the thought process of the government that make in India, for India, and at some point of time, you can even export. So you can see that in just one quarter, 11.57 crore liters was supplied. A simple multiplication by 4 will take you to 50 crore liters. So that is a phenomenal number. We have grown almost 5x the time of what is supplied in the entire year. Going ahead, on the main critical question on which the session's topic is, that how do we get our feedstock? If you look at it, I have just plotted these numbers, and these are all in million-ton capacities. The biggest import is crude palm. We don't use anything directly imported. What we get is, when this crude palm is refined physically, we get around 15% to 18%. I have been a bit moderate. I have kept it an average of 15%. So we almost get 9 lakh tons of palm stearine. And this is very good for the Indian economy, not only for the fuel, but also for the edible oil industry, which can depend on a reliable, trusted partner like OMCs and the biodiesel manufacturers, who are not going to vanish or not going to go away overnight. We are consistently buying, and we will continue to buy their byproducts that come. Now, what happens is, what are the challenges and how government and the policymakers can help? As you can see that I have drafted the numbers after consultation with a lot of industrial experts. These are the numbers for the last oil year, which starts from October to November. 2022 December, I updated the figures, and currently for this year, if I take the 8 months that have gone, almost 3 million tons of refined palm has been imported into India, which is a big challenge because we get our feedstock only after the crude is refined in India, because we don't import directly and we depend on our local industry, the indigenous industry, who in turn gives us the feedstock. Now, this is the 95%, as Parashar pointed out, this is 95% of the feedstock, and this is the source. So yes, there is a challenge. There is a challenge on availability and pricing at times. As I have mentioned in the comment section, almost 6 lakh ton of this 9 lakh ton stearine goes into vanaspati, soaps and oleochemicals. Now, biodiesel takes almost 0.3 million ton. Now, had this 3 million ton been refined in the country, we would have had another 4 lakh ton stearine available. So the pricing pressure would have been slightly better, and the biodiesel industry has got absolutely no choice, because most of our cost buying the feedstock is 85%, and sometimes 90% of our money gets invested into buying the feedstock, and we process and convert it. So at the end of the day, we don't make any profits out of it. We are doing a very thin margin, but can't help it. It depends on the availability and the policies, how the country move. Coming to the smaller portion of the oil that is available, you can see soya got refined almost 4.9 million tons, sunflower 2.1. So we get acid oils out of this. So these acid oils and fatty acid, that is around 3 lakh ton. On all, they come to around 450 lakh metric ton. But there are very few plants who can process. So that's why rightly pointed out by the moderator that only around 4% of the input they act upon, and balance comes from tallow, which again is dominated in northern part of India and Maharashtra and sometimes Telangana, where plants can use tallow as a feedstock and convert it into biodiesel. Now, I'll take you slightly into the analysis of this. If I take you into the analysis, what we have done is we have plotted these numbers. At the bottom, you see these figures. These are in million tons. This is the total import of India. Now, if you see in 1920, the import is hardly 3 lakh tons. In 2021, it is around 4 lakh tons. But 21-22, the imports are, you can see, almost nearing 1.8 or 2 million tons of refined product is coming in, vis-a-vis compared to the crude. The total crude is 14, and out of that 14, almost 2 million ton, and this year only in 8 months, 3 million tons of refined oil has been imported. So that is where the policy correction is required. Petroleum Ministry is doing a wonderful job by creating a sustainable, reliable, trusted, takeaway for their byproduct of palm stearine by the OMCs, which is going into a sustainable product, creating jobs, creating a lot of economic boom in various parts of the country because of this biodiesel blending. So what needs to be done? The government should seriously look into how to encourage more and more crude palm or any crude being refined within the country rather than importing the finished product. That would be one suggestion. And if we look at the overall program and feedstock availability, the Petroleum Ministry has got a very clear roadmap. What they want to do is absolutely clear. Things are monitored on a monthly basis and sometimes even hourly basis, independent if the situation warrants. What is essential is the other departments like Food Safety Standard Authority of India came with a notification that use cooking oil. Now, friends, this is a major issue which somehow the Petroleum Ministry and the oil companies should be credited and helped, because they are doing a very noble thing by bringing the RUCO mission, which was launched none other than the Honorable Prime Minister on 10th of August 2019 in the presence of then Health Minister and FSAI people. But unfortunately, this notification was diluted, and top up, recycle and disposal, everything was allowed. Now, where do you get your use? See, normally, when you look at globally, the total oil basket is 210 million tons. China is the biggest consumer with 43 or 45, 44 million ton. India sometimes touches even 25. Last oil cycle, we were 22 million tons. So on an average, 15 to 60% is the disposal by the food industry that uses oil. Where does that oil go? All that oil goes back into the food chain, which is very dangerous. It causes Alzheimer's, heart disease, obesity, cancer, skin cirrhosis, fatty liver. So what the Petroleum Ministry is doing through the oil marketing companies and the OMCs are developing this UCO-based projects on a developmental mode for last 4 years. They are not getting any help from the departments who are supposed to hold the hand. and give them the feedstock. If they hold the end, give the feedstock, you get nearly 2 to 3 million tons of used cooking oil in the country, which can be used for biodiesel as well as for SAF at a price which is sustainable and assured. So I think between the ministries, there needs to be coordination for this beautiful program, which assures the health and benefit of the entire country, 140 crore or 145 crore citizens of the nation. I have purposefully not mentioned much about TVOs because I don't have any authentic figure. But if we go by any estimate, almost close to 1 million ton of TBOs are available. I'm aware, but I have no authentication of it. That will translate into almost 2.5 lakh tons of oil. But how do we do it? Where is that all that oil going? That is a big question, because as I was listening to the other biomass aggregation is the key. Similarly, here in UCO as well as in TBOs, aggregation is the biggest challenge, and all the burden should not fall on the oil marketing companies or the biodiesel industry. The respective ministries, including the state government and the departments, should take it up as a national mission, because this is going to ensure a wealth creation for the entire nation, because this will be a sustainable biofuel program which will ensure you wealth all across the nation. It will be a good development for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, without taking much time, as usual, I would conclude with thanking you, Ramak, thanking the Petroleum Ministry, thanking the oil marketing companies, and all my colleagues who are there right now listening to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chaturvedi. I think you have actually touched upon a very valid points related to, I think, the government interventions and also in the supply. I think we need to really work on the logistics and really how to make it affordable, because the pricing being one of the major issues which you have touched upon, that is there. Now we have another eminent speaker, Mr. Sri Sumit Sarkar, who is the CEO of CBDA. He is the expert from Chhattisgarh Biodiesel Development Authority. And he has been actively involved in research on increasing the feedstock base for production of biodiesel. I think CBDA has done extensive research on production of biodiesel from Jatroba, which is highly acclaimed all over the industry, because it's the initials whenever we talk about 2001-2 when it started. I think Jatroba was one of the major, thought this is going to be the major feedstock, probably over the period of time. But nevertheless, these are also, because we have to really look into very alternatives. What you rightly said, Mr. Chaturvedi, what the panelists said, that probably we have to really go for the indigenous one. So now, with not taking much of a time, I think I request only the panelists to stick to the time, because we have a time frame. And I request Mr. Sarkar to please start.
Namaskar, Sumit Sarkar from Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority. I hope I am audible. Yeah, I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Can anybody confirm? Yeah. So, वर्ल्ड बायोफ्यूल डे, विश्व जैव ईंधन दिवस 2023 के अवसर पर इस वेबिनार में उपस्थित सभी लोग एवं सभी श्रोताओं को हमारे तरफ से बहुत सारे बधाई। और आपको जान के ये भी खुशी होगा कि आज छत्तीसगढ़ बायोफ्यूल डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी अपने स्तर पर अपने नए स्थापित डेमो बायोएथेनॉल प्लांट पे भी वर्ल्ड बायोफ्यूल डे को मना रहे हैं। और जिस तरह आप लोगों ने सभी सेक्टर में बायोफ्यूल के, बायोइथेनॉल, बायोडीजल, सस्टेनेबल एविएशन फ्यूल, सतत बायोगैस टू पावर, सभी क्षेत्रों में हमारे यहाँ स्पीकर सर गिविंग देयर स्पीचेस। तो इस कारण से मैं सुबह से आपके वेबिनार ज्वाइन नहीं कर पाया, बट वी आर ऑल्सो लर्निंग। एक्चुअली फील्ड से लोग आए हुए हैं, और बायोडीजल के क्षेत्रों में जो हमारे एरिया है, छत्तीसगढ़ का एक किनारा है पेंड्रा मारोवाही एरिया, जो सरगुजा में जाके मिलते हैं, जहाँ सबसे ज्यादा टीबीओस का उपार्जन होता है। वहां से एग्रीगेटर्स आर हेयर, और अभी मैं उन्हीं के साथ सेशन में चर्चा भी कर रहा था, मॉडरेट भी कर रहा था। और बायोडीजल आते ही स्वाभाविक रूप से सीबीडीए आ जाता है, पर सीबीडीए इथेनॉल पे भी काम कर रहे हैं, ऐसे में भी हमने कामयाबी हासिल की है। तो बायोडीजल के क्षेत्रों में जो फीड स्टॉक का बात है, जैसे अभी प्रीवियस स्पीकर्स वर टेलिंग दैट obviously the pricing, the collection mechanism, and every government has a role to play, like the state governments as well as the central government. तो ये काम ना बहुत ज्यादा आपका सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के भरोसे में होगा नहीं, क्योंकि हम 4-5 बायोफ्यूल बोर्ड थे, तीनों का अस्तित्व आज है नहीं, हम अकेला बचे। कितने दिन बच पाएंगे मालूम नहीं, बट स्टिल स्टेट के हिसाब से स्टेट अपना काम करते रहता है। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी सपोर्ट समय समय पर देते रहते हैं, बट दे आर नॉट ऑलवेज वेरी मच सपोर्टिव टू द स्टेट्स। तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है ये एक संग्राम है, जैव ईंधन, बायोडीजल और बायो इथानॉल भी बोलिए, सब में से हमारा रोल है कि फीड स्टॉक पे जाके उसका चैलेंज एक्सेप्ट करना, ग्रामीणों के उनके न्याয্য मूल्य देके अप्रोप्रिएट प्राइसिंग होना चाहिए। और इसमें हमने रोबस्ट रूरल नेटवर्क से काम किए हैं, ग्रामीण लेवल पे 2-3 स्तर पर मटेरियल का संग्रहण, परिवहन और फिर उसको ले आके प्लांट में कैसे बायोडीजल बनाया जाए, इस पर हम लोगों ने रियल टाइम एक्सपीरियंस किए हैं। और हमारे एक छोटा सा पायलट बायोडीजल प्लांट है जो कि नॉट मेड फॉर द कमर्शियल यूज, बट इसमें हम लोगों ने आज तक करीब 4,50,000 मेट्रिक टन बायोडीजल उत्पादन करके उसको गाड़ियों में, वाहनों में उपयोग भी किए। तो फीड स्टॉक जब हम लेने जाते हैं, सबसे पहले तो उसका प्राइसिंग और उसका सही समय पे सही जगह पे पहुंच के उसका कलेक्शन, ये राउंड द ईयर देयर इज नॉट ओनली अ सिंगल फीड स्टॉक। छत्तीसगढ़ में हम लोग विगत लास्ट 3-4 ईयर से ये काम कर रहे हैं कि वी हैव अराउंड 38 डिफरेंट ऑयल सीड क्रॉप जिससे बायोडीजल बनता है और जो साल भर हमको मिलेगा। Jactopha is seasonal. Once you close it, then there is a gap for almost 6 months. उस बीच के कुछ शॉर्ट स्टेशन ऑयल सीड क्रॉप्स हम लोग यहाँ पे हमारे जंगल एरिया में कलेक्शन कर रहे हैं और करंज पे हमने काफी काम किया है। और मैं चाहूंगा कि बाकी स्टेट भी राउंड द ईयर क्रॉप कैलेंडर वाइज कलेक्शन मैकेनिज्म को बनाएं और उस कलेक्शन मैकेनिज्म से उनका प्लांट रन कर पाएगा, क्योंकि सिंगल फीड स्टॉक बेसिस प्लांट तो चलेगा। हमारा एक्सपीरियंस कुछ हद तक हमारे लेबोरेटरी में जाके एंड होता है, जहां हम सीडो accredited biodiesel testing laboratory which can test almost all the parameters of BIS standards and have GC, FID, we have ICP OES and every other equipment that is required. We have a nano drop also, and these all helps us in working with collection of TVOs, producing oil, manufacturing biodiesel, testing for its appropriateness and engine acceptability on the engine testing lab. तो इस जो 38 क्रॉप का मैं आपको बताया उसमें से ऑलमोस्ट 12 क्रॉप्स टिल नाउ वी कुड बी एबल टू टेक अ फुल टेस्टिंग, और जिसको हम कलेक्शन के लिए हमारे जो माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस है उनके एक एमएसपी पे लाना चाह रहे हैं। और मोस्ट प्रोबेबली अगले 1-2 महीने में एमएसपी फॉर ऑल दिस 12 क्रॉप्स विल बी अनाउंस, जिससे कि किसानों से हमारे माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस ये बीज को लाए। एंड आई एम इन डिस्कशन विद द बायोडीजल एसोसिएशन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स आल्सो दैट दे कैन हैव नाउ अ डायरेक्ट एग्रीमेंट विद आवर माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस, जो हमको उत्साहित करेगा कि हाँ, हम इतना बीज संग्रहण करें और वो इसको खरीद ले। ऐसे ना हो कि हम बीज तो ले आए और उसके बाद खरीदार ना आए। पैरेलली जब यूसीओ का एफर्ट चालू हुआ था रिपर्पस यूज कुकिंग ऑयल, तो बहुत उत्साह था। ये ग्रुप में जितने लोग हैं इन लोगों ने बहुत उत्साह लेके भेजा था, और कहीं ना कहीं उत्साह में थोड़ा कमी आ गया। और इस उत्साह का फायदा उठा के डोमिनोज और ये सब जो पिज्जा वाले हैं, इन लोगों ने कुछ आउटलेट्स में इस रिपर्पस यूज कुकिंग ऑयल से बायोडीजल बना के अपना गाड़ी तो चला दिए, लेकिन कामयाबी आज तक भी यूसीओ में हासिल नहीं। In the state, we face the same problem. So what we did, what steps we have taken, I think that would be encouraging for the entire group. हमने हमारे खाद्य विभाग से, हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी डिपार्टमेंट से कोऑर्डिनेट करके आज वर्ल्ड बायोफ्यूल दिवस का डेट में अगर आप लोग आज नेट वर्जन ई पेपर ऑफ दैनिक भास्कर रायपुर एडिशन खोलेंगे, तो इन द सेकंड पेज यू विल फाइंड दैट ऑलरेडी दी होटल्स एंड ऑल द रेस्टोरेंट और जो रास्ते में थाली ठेला लगाते हैं, इन सबको ये बता दिया गया कि अगर 25 सीपीडी से ज्यादा आपके ऑयल में पाया गया इन द बर्न्ड ऑयल, वी विल सीज इट एंड वी विल पे आल्सो फॉर दैट सीजर। CBD will pay you for that oil which have been seized. तो अब हम awareness campaign चला रहे हैं along with the state government, food department and health and safety operators. We have created a team of 3 groups, each group comprising of district health officers and district food officer, 4 officers, 1 group into 3 groups, and we have divided them for the entire state to run this campaign for next 1 and 2 months. After that, we will initiate our सीजर ऑफ मटेरियल चेकिंग वेरिफिकेशन. तो हम तैयारी कर रहे हैं कि ये सब इक्विपमेंट्स लेने का, कि वहीं पे स्थल पर रास्ते का जो स्टॉल से भजिया और ये सब बिक रहा है उनके पास भी पहुंच के तुरंत टेस्ट करें और साथ में एक गाड़ी में वो ऑयल लेते जाए और उनको जो है उसका भुगतान भी करें. आर्थिक रूप से हम उनको ये देके समझाएंगे कि भाई अगर सही गुणवत्ता का ऑयल आप हमको देते हो तो उसके लिए इतना राशि हम आपको देंगे. तो दीज आर द एफर्ट्स वी आर ऑलरेडी टेकन. होपफुली बाय इसमें कुछ अच्छे रिजल्ट आ सकता है. द बिग होटेलियर्स एंड बिग फूड बिजनेस ऑपरेटर्स, दे आर दी बिग फ्लाइज. ये अपने कब्जा में आते नहीं है. जब तक ना फूड ऑफिसर जाके उनको थोड़ा धमकाए चमकाए तब तक काम नहीं होगा. तो स्टेट का ही रोल है, स्टेट को काम करना पड़ेगा, बहुत काम करना है, तब जाके हम आपको सपोर्ट दे पाएंगे. आप लोग हमें थोड़ा सा प्रेरणा देते रहिए. हम लोग जब दिल्ली आते आप लोगों से कुछ मांगते हैं तो थोड़ा हमें सुनिए, हमें कुछ मदद करिए. एक बार में नकार मत दीजिए. तो हम आपको विश्वास दिलाते हैं कि सर्व स्तर पर एट ऑल द लेवल, इफ दिस effort can be taken, the state governments along with the central government and the oil marketing companies, we would be able to achieve the target of biodiesel blending soon. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir. I think it was quite enchanting, especially you touched upon a very important issue of the quality. And probably the biodiesel at present right now, the quality is a major concern. And whenever we talk about biodiesel, the quality challenges which is there, and I think probably it will gain its maturity, and I think with the state support of state would certainly be there. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. Now our third eminent speaker is Mr. Murthy. He is SBM Murthy. He is the secretary of Nageshwar Charitable Trust. He is the secretary of the Charitable Trust from Tamia block of Chhindwara district of Maharashtra. I'm happy to share that Mr. Nageshwara Charitable Trust has entered into an MOU with Indian Oil, which has already been for exploring opportunity for making biodiesel from tree-borne oil involving tribal communities as an important stakeholders, furthering to production of biodiesel in the country, because the main reason, because it is also not only serving to the community, because I think that is the area which is still very unexplored. So let us hear from Mr. Murthy. I think probably that would be wonderful to hear from you, because these are the area which is still in very dark area where we have not much progress has been done and much talk has not been discussed on that. Yeah, over to Mr. Murthy.
Sir, you are mute. Sir, you are mute.
Mr. Murthy, I think you're mute.
साउंड बढ़ाइए सर. Sound.
Mr. Murthy, I think he is not able to.
Sir, can you disconnect and reconnect the device?
Yes, now you are audible. No?
Presentation है क्या?
ये Shantanu ji, he is not audible, I think. कुछ problem है?
No sir, he is not audible.
He is not audible.
Murthy ji, can you hear us? But we cannot hear you. Do you have anything to present? Then you can go for sharing.
Disconnect. Sir, can you disconnect and again rejoin?
For mobile, join through mobile, sir. I'll send you mobile link.
Please join through mobile, sir, if it is possible. And link has been shared over mobile also.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You are audible now, but you have to disconnect that login, sir. Earlier login, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Now it's clear, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible now.
Okay. I'm extremely sorry for this small aberration. Good afternoon to everybody. I wish you all a very happy Biofuel Day on this day. I am Murthy from Nageshwara Charitable Trust, an NGO working for last 25 years and working with NABARD since 20 years in rural areas of central India in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh state. So I would talk about TBOs today because we are working in remote areas and NTFP or TBO is a very common livelihood for the mainly tribals or farmers in this area. So TBOs are available abundant in forest areas. Mainly, if you talk about TBOs, it is Neem, Karanj, Maua, Kusum, Sal, all these things. And majority is available from forest area or Karanj. If you talk, there is avenue plantation, but there is very less plantation on private lands or privately owned lands wherein commercially it is grown like bamboo. So when we talk about collection from forest, so it is very important for us to build the capacity or taking the farmers or the tribals into confidence to bring the value chain into a proper manner. So which we are recently we are undergone at MOU with Indian Oil Corporation to set up a small trial plant in Tamia. So in fact, our NGO is from Nagpur, but we work in Tamia in Chindwara district. It is a tribal district. So it is to demonstrate the value chain. Presently, the value chain is totally unorganized. The collection goes to bicholis, and they get very less money for their TBO or oil seed. So we need to build the capacity. We need to train tribals, and it is advisable. It is better to involve the SHG, self-help groups, or the farmers producer companies. And I would like to share you because Government of India since 2019 is promoting a very ambitious program of promoting 6,000 farmers producer companies spending 6,000 crores. So 1,000 farmers produce 10,000 farmers producer companies, and every block in India has got one or two farmers producer company or promoted under this ambitious program. Every FPO, farmers producer company, is supported with 58,000 crores, and many of them, about 5% of them, are forest-based farmers producer companies also. So it is always better to involve them because they are being promoted for NTFPs. And feedstock is TBO is one of the major NTFP available in the forest. So if we add them, see what we are doing in Tamia is the same, involving farmers producer companies because they have got reach and they have got members in every village.
and they can break the present bicholi market and bring the oil seed into their center and crush them and make it to biodiesel. But the viability presently, immediately may not be achieved. But however, once it is streamlined, the viability is definitely achieved because involving farmers and involving the FPO members, it is easily available. And I have a suggestion here to the Secretary, Ministry of Oil, that in this program, because there need to be a interlinking of two departments here in the central government, because these FPOs, they are getting a income tax exemption up to 2025 for the agri product transactions. If we involve TBOs also or a biodiesel business also into this, if these FPOs, they are all promoted under Government of India's program and registered as companies, if they get a 5 years income tax rebate for the working of biodiesel or collection of TBO or crushing or whatever, so it will be an encouragement for them, and it can be channelized properly through the FPOs. Even involving self-help groups, because if you can see Avenue Plantation, there is a huge Karanja plantation on highways, national highways. So if the self-help groups are involved in collection and procurement of Karanji seeds, then that also can help in collection and channelizing the working. So my point is capacity building of farmers and tribals, and incentivizing the plantation, because even plantation is also possible, because once they start getting money from the seed, then definitely they will go for plantation. So if we incentivize or providing sapling and some incentive for plantation, that will add to the collection, because same thing is happening in log collection, because there is incentive in plantation, log collection is properly channelized, and at the same way, even the TBO's collection can be done for biodiesel production and brought it into the center, and crushing can be done. So incentivizing, capacity building, and if possible, if a rebate is given for the producer companies for biodiesel activity, then I think it can be a win-win situation for farmers as well as self-help groups. Thank you. Sanjay ji, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you. I think it was. I think this is one of the probably this area. Probably we have to really work on more, and we have to have a more knowledge on these areas. And thank you for such a wonderful presentation. And biodiesel. Sorry. Right now, if you are looking at a biodiesel is the issue with the biodiesel right now. We are facing is a logistic issues, awareness, and also because even the people awareness, probably we have to really work on that. Those are certain issues. Whenever we talk about the biodiesel, we are finding 2-3 issues which is very, very prominent, which has already been touched upon by the panelists. First of all, it is very unorganized market. We probably need to really organize more for the collections of UCO and other things, which is already abundantly available. Also, we have a lack of suitable supply chain mechanism. That is one of the area probably we have to really work on. Apart from that, the unhealthy consumption of UCO, which has already touched upon by Mr. Chaturvedi, I think diversion into the food chain, which is very, very detrimental to the health and not good for the country as well. So probably we need to have a stringent norms and public awareness, and certainly the touched upon that the government of India support or the state support, which is important for all of us. Probably that has been touched upon. I think it was a wonderful presentation. I think perhaps we have to work more. This is the area which need to be done. So thank you all the panelists, and thank you, Mr. Shantanu, for really making it great. I think it was a wonderful day, which I could gather many new things and learning. Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you very much for your taking pains and all the panelists who has given a very clear thoughts of their mind. Now, I am really thrilled to welcome our Joint Secretary, Exploration and Biorefinery, Mr. Sunil Kumarji. He doesn't need any introduction because we all know tirelessly he is putting his best efforts for biofuel. If you ask him what is your hobby, he will always tell it is only biofuel. So that's the dedication, that's the passion he is having with him. And we have seen the way the ethanol is prospering from where to where. So that's what we always see. 5% was a dream once upon a time. Now we are confidently walking through 12% and we are sure about 20% in the vicinity. And also thinking beating Brazil. So this is what, sir, with your vision and tremendous hard work, giving a clear direction to the whole fraternity who are sitting here today. And also you are taking a lot of efforts in popularizing SAF, creating production capabilities of SAF today in the country. Also negotiating with the CORSIA for DGCA, also for getting the right blend of the opportunity to go. So biodiesel, it was always very close to your heart. Though we are not in a position to tell that we have really gone through the right path, or maybe some more work has to be taken care of. And we will be surely addressing all those things. CBG also, it has started in a very big way. Now we can tell around 100 plants are under different stage of construction today. 50 plants are running. So more to get added in the next 1 to 2 years. So with this brief introductions, I will request, sir, for this we had 4 sessions, ethanol, CBG, biodiesel and SAF. And there was a very vibrant speakers and panelists, and the moderators were also very effectively done this. So over to you, sir, for your important words, which will be guiding factors for all the fraternity here. Thank you, sir. What you say?
Thank you, Santanu-ji. Thank you for flattering words. I'm happy to be here with you all, and we have spent some four very productive years together. And I take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy Biofuel Day. Biofuel Day has been very momentous last 3-4 years. Every Biofuel Day, we had something or other very remarkable initiatives started on that day, starting from 2015, I think. Biodiesel was allowed to be sold to bulk retailers first, and that set the tone for biodiesel also. Before that, I must congratulate all the stakeholders, starting with oil marketing companies. They have done a stellar job. Not in our years of dreams, we have never thought that from 4% in 3 years back, we'll be reaching and blending 12%. And along with oil marketing companies, the biofuel manufacturers, be it ethanol, biodiesel, or upcoming compressed biogas, and later we have some production of sustainable aviation fuel also. They have also come up very, very well, and not to mention Automobile Manufacturer Association. They have been a real surprise to me. And they, yesterday I was there in their meet on International Conference on Biofuel, and I mentioned that coming of automobile manufacturers have really changed the tone, and now we are moving together towards a future where the biofuel percentage and biofuel presence in our fuel will be high. And yesterday also I said that Biofuel Day we take as a pit stop in their automobile terminology, but I can also say it's our Lekha Jokha Din. We sit together and ponder and deliberate what we have done so far and what all we have to do next. If we see our growth and stage at which we are, so if there is an analogy can be drawn with a movement of a horse. So we were trotting a couple of years back, and now we are in the canter stage, but we need to gallop. We have to need to gallop to 20% and beyond 20% and have a future where we can show to the world that we have moved in such a model that we have also grown with traditional fuel as well as the new growth or new area or new energy additions have been mostly from the renewable. Coming to the transport fuel, it is from the biofuel. So the stage is there. I think Secretary in the morning has mentioned that stage of possibility and all is over. That's what I am saying. The analogy, we are cantering, we have to gallop. So that's there are 3-4 issues we have to coming forward in coming years. We have to address, and we are geared. I am very confident with the way we are working together that we will overcome and will reach the galloping stage. First is that feedstock management. Feedstock risks have to be assessed very, very clearly, and we have to develop feedstock in a way that if some portion of feedstock is has some difficulties or faces a risk of failure, the other feedstock can compensate for that. So yesterday also I mentioned that what I foresee for ethanol feedstock is sugarcane on one side and maize on another. These will be two pillars on which we should work on. And OMCs have done a stellar job by announcing a 6 rupee per liter increase on maize. That shows the intent that we are going forward on maize as a second pillar of our feedstock for ethanol. Coming back to biodiesel, I listened to a few panelists. The biodiesel has a risk and has some constraint and challenges on feedstock side. So we have to tackle that by using technology, awareness, or market forces has to be unleashed, like tree-borne oil, non-edible oil seeds is a major issue which has not taken up, because today there was incidentally a parliament question on biodiesel and biofuels. So there was a discussion in the morning that how to increase the domestic feedstock for biodiesel. And TBO forms an important call, but it is so distributed, so diverse, so unorganized. So we'll have to do a study. We have to sit together and tackle this, because the potential of TBO is huge in our country. And traditionally, Indians have been using TBO for very many applications. Why not divert it and increase that source and divert it to biodiesel stream? So that's an area where we have to work in future. Secondly, the biofuel which we are procuring from the manufacturers, how to manage it, logistics, storage, distribution, how to make it efficient so that we don't spend much money and we don't burn also transport fuel to carry this biofuel. So the whole purpose of blending biofuel in transport fuel will get defeated. So that is another very interesting area. How can we have hubs of biofuel from where we can distribute or blend or use it as a storage point. So this area also in coming years will need a sustainable and collaboration as well as study from all stakeholders. Thirdly, can we go for a new feedstock, and a new feedstock which can be used for all the biofuel, the 4 major biofuel which we see today: biodiesel, CBG, SAF, and ethanol. So let us move forward. I think there are some experimentation being done by IOCL on 3G ethanol. So 3G holds a future that where we can grow our own feedstock from which we can produce biofuel. The technology is nascent. There are few technology, but we'll have to work on that so that we reduce stress on food grains and food crops, and later we move on to this as time passes. So these 3-4 areas, I feel that on today's day, let us sit down together and and work on this so that the supply side risks can be minimized and our distribution gaps and distribution losses can be minimized on the consumption sides. And I hope that with announcement of flex fuel vehicles in the country, the rollout will begin very soon. And I'm very, very confident, and I dream of by 2030 to 35, we'll have motorcycles, flex fuel motorcycles will outnumber conventional motorcycles running on petrol. So that's my dream, and that will happen in Bihar, UP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and this will change and also will put less pressure on our import, because I feel by 2030, 35, we'll be consuming not less than 8 million barrels per day of crude oil. So shifting to ethanol on flex fuel more than 30% will help the economy so that we can divert valuable naphtha and petrochemical and other requirements of a growing economy. So I'll not take much time. I'm happy and I congratulate all of you again, and hope this seminar had enabled everyone to look at opportunities and challenges to move forward. And I hope together with the biofuel manufacturers and automobile manufacturers and oil marketing companies will cog in these two parts, will move towards a future where we'll canter like I will gallop like a horse, and we'll have sustainable growth of biofuel, and we will be an example in the world of how we move and grew as a biofuel superpower. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your canter to gallop. Yes, this is the slogan, and this is the takeaway from today's webinar, which has been witnessed by over 400 people who joined at one point of time. And also it is being spread through YouTube and other links. So it's hopefully the whole country is watching this, and we have a program, various programs which will be going up to 14th of August. Different program we are making across the country, pan-India. So that way we must see that we are very passionate about this day. As you narrated the past one, 2015 and onwards, we are starting this. And we assure you that the whole fraternity is committed, and we will be taking the country forward towards the energy independence. And bioenergy is going to give a big impetus for that. So thank you very much again, sir, for your giving a directions and vision. We'll continue to get your blessings and directions to achieve our mission. And we extend our sincere thanks to all the audience who has attended and who has asked relevant questions, all the panelists, all the moderators, all the organizers, all the ministry officials who have done very nicely organized the whole program. And thanks to the whole countrymen who are watching this from the various districts. And this will be kept in the YouTube also. You can access at any point of time, and I will request more and more to the students population, the juniors, the young populations, if you can discuss and also can send to the WhatsApp some of the discussion points, it will be very useful for us as a whole. Thank you very much, sir, and thanks a lot to all the people connected here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.